We're so happy to see you again and continue this journey of learning and knowledge sharing. Yesterday, we explored leadership and innovation. Today, we'll dive into sessions and workshops that will inspire us to reflect on interculturality, sustainability, and the evolving role of teachers and researchers. We're ready to explore new ideas and enriching conversations. Thank you for your commitment and active participation. We're confident that today will be just as productive and inspiring as yesterday. My name is Sergio Aristizabal, faculty member of the Foreign Language Program, and together with Professor Silvia Juliana Leon, I'll be your host for today's program. Let's get started. And a quick reminder, this international event offers you the opportunity to receive a certification. To obtain it, please remember to complete the evaluation form at the end of the event.
Welcome again. Hello, Sergio. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Today's focus will be on interculturality, inclusion, and sustainability. We'll begin with a keynote by Jill Fortune, who will talk about connecting communities through intercultural language learning. Afterwards, Jaime and Kahima will lead workshop 2, where we'll explore key principles for learning English in intercultural contexts. Later this morning, we'll reflect on how languages can foster global citizenship and sustainability. Jose Alirio Mendoza Mesa will share his experience in the talk From Tolima to Belgium. And then Tatiana Herrera Guzman Teens will present a fascinating language exchange project that connects English learning with the Utoto language. We'll close today with a final moment of reflection led by the program director to gather conclusion and wrap up this amazing Congress. And don't forget, to receive your certification, you must complete the evaluation form at the end of the session block.
That's it. Next, we move to keynote 7, Journeys We Share, Connecting Communities Through Intercultural Language Learning, presented by Jill Fortune. Professor Luis Miguel Murcia will introduce our speaker and guide the Q&A session.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to introduce Professor Jill Fortune. Originally from the United Kingdom, Jill has over 20 years of experience in English language teaching, as well as in teacher training and academic management, in various contexts in Europe and Latin America. She has held positions as a teacher, lecturer, and manager in public and private educational institutions, in addition to collaborating as an academic consultant for ministries, non-governmental organizations, and national and international university systems. Her background includes extensive experience in curriculum design and the development of assessment systems, with a particular interest in training that aims to develop intercultural competencies at various educational levels. She holds a master's degree in TSO and currently serves as a director of the Language Institute at the National Open and Distance University, UNAD, in Vail. Please, Professor Jill, remember that you have 30 minutes to make your presentation and 10 minutes to answer questions from the audience. For the public, bear in mind that throughout the presentation, you will find a link to the Q&A forum in the YouTube chat, so feel free to ask. Professor Jill, welcome, and we are all yours.
Thank you, Luis Miguel, and thank you, Ezedu, for the invitation to participate in what seems to be a very interesting Congress so far. So thank you for the space. Yes, the idea is today to talk a little bit about how we can connect communities through intercultural language learning. And the idea, as you can see from the title, is that it's something that we should all share from different aspects of education and from learning, whether it's languages or perhaps other things as well. But obviously my focus in particular is language. So let's get started. Let's have a look. So if we want to talk about intercultural language learning, I guess the first thing to look at is a little bit the reason why. Why do I want to talk about intercultural language learning? It's because when we talk about language learning and we look at, I don't know, traditional textbooks or traditional curricula, we tend to find culture exists there. And what happened a lot of the time was the cultural aspect tended to focus on quite stereotypical things. For example, the national symbols that you're looking at on screen. If we talked about England, we would look at the National Guard or the Queen's Guard in this particular case. We talked about France, so we saw the Louvre. If we talked about China, you'd see the Chinese dragon pop up. And all of these aspects clearly are part of a national culture. I'm not denying that at all. However, I think we need to go a lot further beyond that. And I guess that is the invitation for today. So what is culture then, if it's not just these national symbols? There are lots and lots and lots of definitions in the world of what is culture. I've gone with this one for today, which is that culture is the whole way of life of a people or group. It's all social practices that distinguish one group from another. When we talk about a group as well, I think it's important that we think about what kinds of groups we can have in terms of cultural groups. They're not just necessarily these national groups that we talked about before. Obviously, one cultural group that you will be defined by to a degree is your national culture. I'm from England, and therefore, yes, I'm English, and yes, I have a lot of characteristics from English culture. However, I also have a lot now from Colombian culture because I live in Colombia. I have a lot from Spanish culture because I lived in Spain before I came to Colombia. And then we have a lot of other groups as well, social groups that we belong to, perhaps religious groups, perhaps study groups, different interest groups. Your gender is probably a cultural group that you belong to as well. So all of these things, all of these aspects that build a cultural group can be described as your cultural characteristics. For example, gesture and body language. We use it a lot. And you might find more in some cultures than others. Some people gesticulate a lot more than others, but certainly you'll find that deictic reference does vary a lot from culture to culture. This is a photo of my son. And if he finds out I put this on a presentation, he'll kill me. This is from many years ago. My son is older now. And he is doing something that surprised me when I came to Colombia. And anyone who is Colombian or has lived in Colombia for any amount of time will know that, for example, when I got on a bus one time in Colombia when I first arrived, I was looking for a seat to sit down. And a guy did what my son is doing here on the camera. And he went, and I thought, what are you doing? Why is this man making kissing gestures at me on a bus? No, he wasn't. He was being very polite and he was pointing to a seat that was empty that I could sit on the bus. This in England doesn't happen. You don't point with your mouth. You point with your finger. You point with your hand, maybe. But it's a very Colombian thing. I don't know if it happens in other countries. Perhaps in Latin America, people also point with their mouths. But it certainly differs from culture to culture. Similarly, if you go to England, for example, or the UK in general, and you want to order 2 lemonades or 2 Coca-Colas or 2 bottles of water or something, it's probably not the best idea to ask for them like this. If you ask for 2, you are going to offend people, okay? Putting 2 fingers up like that is very rude in England. It's an insult. And therefore, if we ask for 2 of something somewhere, we will always ask for 2, for 2, for 2, but not 2, okay? This is very rude. And obviously, if you're not from there, then there's no reason you would understand that, and therefore could get into difficulties. So things like gesture and body language differ a lot from whether it's a national culture or the cultural groups. So it's interesting for us to be able to study that and to understand that and to become part of that cultural group. Once you understand these things, you will, if you know me, if you see me in Colombia, you may well find me pointing at people with my mouth these days. So it's part of a way of integrating with these other cultures as well. This is obviously just one example. If we look at Hall's iceberg model, you'll see what we talk about as the surface culture and the deep culture. So the surface culture, you'll find all of those observable things that you can see in the day-to-day. So things like customs, the literature from a culture, the way people dress, the daily habits. And the unobservable things are more like the values, the beliefs that people hold, things like values on raising children, notions of modesty, attitudes, things to do with justice. Yeah. So if we think about only the observable items or the observable aspects of culture, that's when we end up with stereotypes. Okay, which is fine. Stereotypes exist for a reason. For example, if you talk about English people, you say, yes, English people, of course. I don't drink coffee. So people in Colombia say, of course, no, Jill doesn't drink coffee. She's English. Give her a cup of tea. Because, of course, all English people drink tea. As it happens, I'm just a bit strange. I don't drink coffee, but I don't drink tea either. So I'm afraid I don't fit into the stereotype. Having said that, I would say the great majority of English people do drink tea. So the stereotype does come from somewhere, but we can't generalize and assume that absolutely everybody fits into that stereotype, okay? And they come from the observable habits. Because if you go to England, you will see people offering you a cup of tea all day and people drinking tea in cafeterias everywhere. Okay, so they come from there, but obviously we just need to bear in mind that that is only part of the culture. And then there's that whole part that's below the surface of the water, like an iceberg, that we can't see. And it's quite often the bigger part, really, of culture. The observable parts tend to be the minor, perhaps less important or that have less impact. And the unobservable parts tend to be the more profound, deep-rooted values of a culture. So with that in mind, excuse me, you can see here, we can divide these aspects of culture, let's say, into three main columns. You've got your products, your practices, and your perspectives. So your products are the things that you can see, you can look at, you can appreciate, you see in the museum. It's the art, it's the literature, it's the food and drink, the laws, the music, the games, the kind of popular culture that you can see when you go to any of the region, country, or the cultural groups. The practices are things that people do. So the celebrations, how do the people celebrate birthdays or weddings, etc. Greetings, do you kiss on one cheek? Do you kiss on both cheeks? Do you kiss 3 times? Do you not kiss at all? Do you say hello? Do you wave? Do you, yeah? And all of those kind of social interactions. And then you've got your perspectives, which are all of those meanings, the attitudes, the values, the ideas, the things that you hold inside, the things that you hold dear. Okay, so this is what we're talking about when we're talking about culture. So if this is what culture is, then what is interculturality? Again, there are lots and lots of definitions in the world about interculturality. I've gone with this one, and I'm going to read it out. It's a little bit long, but I'm going to read it out for you. So it says, interculturality describes a set of multifaceted processes of interaction through which relations between different cultures are constructed, aiming to enable groups and individuals to forge links between cultures based on equity and mutual respect. It's also linked with the idea of hybrid identities and fusion cultures, in which people and groups create and recreate new cultural patterns that take up elements of formerly distinct and separated norms, values, behaviours, and lifestyles. I put the orange in myself because it's the kind of, it's the focus that we're trying to give to this presentation today. It's the interculturality, it's making those hybrid cultures. As I said at the beginning, I do have a lot of English characteristics from my English culture and background. I was brought up in England until I was 20. However, I've lived in Colombia now for 20 years, and therefore my culture is most definitely a hybrid culture in terms of my national cultural identity. And as you grow up and as you have these experiences through your life, you automatically become a hybrid yourself. So I may have taken parts from different religions over the years. I may have taken parts from different practices. The fact that I am a mother will probably have affected me in terms of my cultural identity, because I will inevitably be able to identify with other mothers to a degree. Doesn't mean we're all the same, obviously, but we all take little parts from everything. And so everybody has this hybrid cultural identity going on. And the idea is that through language learning, or any other learning really, that we should be able to link with other people and identify those parts of our cultures that can mix and be complementary with other people's cultures, and therefore we can learn and grow together. We want to be able to develop this intercultural competence. What is intercultural competence? It's a set of cognitive, affective, and behavioral skills and characteristics that support effective and appropriate interaction in a variety of cultural contexts. Again, this is one definition. There are a million definitions of this, but it's the idea that we are helping our students to be able to develop these competences and these skills, because it's basically another one of these soft skills that we talk so much about that helps with employability. It helps with personal and professional lives. It helps them to be able to interact on a world stage. We can also think about dividing these intercultural competences into 3 sets of skills and characteristics: the behavioral, cognitive, and affective. So if we look at some examples, we can see in the behavioral, for example, we've got things like problem solving, listening, information gathering, relationship building, all of these things that we should be trying to include in our curricula, in our day-to-day teaching, and really try to encourage our students to develop these competences all of the time. Those are the behavioral ones. Then we've got cognitive skills. So cultural self-awareness. We can't become aware of anybody else's culture if we're not aware of our own culture or cultures, okay? It's not just, oh, well, I'm Colombian, so I have a Colombian culture. Okay, yes, you do, but what does that mean? And what is a Colombian culture anyway? Colombia has so many cultures within it, because of the regions, because of the languages, because of the gastronomy. I mean, how many types of arepa exist in Colombia, or empanada, or tamal? It's not just one, okay? So we all have lots and lots of different cultures within our cultural identity. Within that, we've got culture knowledge and interaction analysis as well. And then we have affective aspects too. Things like curiosity, cognitive flexibility, keeping our mind open and being motivated to learn about ourselves and about others, and also be aware of our own growth, because it's not static, it's a very dynamic issue. My cultural identity is very different today than it was 20 years ago, or 5 years ago, or even perhaps yesterday. Yeah, we're in constant evolution. So we need to be aware of that and have a little bit of awareness, I guess, self-awareness and awareness of others too. What we need to avoid at all costs is ethnocentrism. And again, 1,000 definitions. We've gone with this one today. Well, actually, I've got 2 for you today. Merriam-Webster says that the attitude that one's own group, ethnicity or nationality, is superior to others. It might be to do with ethnicity or nationality. It could be any group, really, any cultural group. To believe that that is better than anybody else's can be understood to be ethnocentrism. Another definition from the Oxford Dictionary is the evaluation of other cultures according to preconceptions originating in the standards and customs of one's own culture. It's very difficult not to be ethnocentric, okay? Obviously, we see the world through our own eyes. And that means that we judge everything around us based on our own cultural identity and our own experiences and our own knowledge. We can't really avoid that because we are who we are and we understand what we understand. But if we do develop the intercultural competence that we just looked at, we should have a mind open enough to understand that maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're wrong. Does anybody know who this guy is? Not around anymore. This guy's been dead for quite a long time. His name was Amerigo, I think, Vespucci. Please don't judge me on my Italian pronunciation. He supposedly discovered America. He thought he was discovering America. He wasn't, obviously. But when he thought he was discovering America and he landed, he wrote in his journal that the people that he found there, I imagine some kind of indigenous tribe at the time, he wrote about them that the manner of their living was very barbarous because they do not eat at fixed times, but as often as they please. Imagine the horror that he found people eating whenever they were hungry, which was terrible for him. He was like, oh my gosh, what are these people doing? And he just thought it was crazy, and he thought it was barbarous, in fact. Why? Because he had grown up eating at 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. I don't know. It's crazy for us to think that somebody would think somebody else was absolutely insane because they were eating when they were hungry, because we have a much more open mind these days. But this is a very good example of ethnocentrism, and it's quite an extreme example, I suppose. But basically, it's to illustrate the fact that we really do need to keep an open mind. If somebody is doing something in a different way that we do it, we always need to think, well, that's interesting. It's not right. It's not wrong. If they're doing it like that and I'm doing it like that, who's right and who's wrong? There's not necessarily a right and wrong. They're just different. Okay. And maybe we want to try it. Maybe we want to try it and see if we like it. Maybe we don't. And that's okay as well. This is another example. You may have seen it before. Two women from very different cultures thinking something very similar. Everything covered but her eyes. What a cruel male-dominated culture. And the other one, nothing covered but her eyes. What a cruel male-dominated culture. It's a difficult one. And the idea is that through language teaching, which is a way of communicating, essentially, with other people from other cultural groups, the idea is that they shouldn't be, these two ladies, ideally shouldn't be looking over their shoulder at the other one, looking them up and down and thinking anything. They shouldn't be prejudging anything. They should be sitting down, having a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a glass of water or whatever together and having a conversation and saying and asking, hey, why do you do that? Ah, okay, that's interesting. I never thought about it like that before. Yeah, and having that conversation, because if those two ladies don't ever have that conversation, then they will automatically think what they're thinking in this cartoon. So the idea really is that we just want to open the door for those conversations to happen. And as teachers, we want to help our students to understand the importance of having those conversations. Because ultimately what we want to do is celebrate diversity. And in a country like Colombia, where there is already so much diversity in the country without even going outside, if we can't celebrate diversity, then we're going to be really stuck. And we're certainly never going to become global citizens. So this is where we want to go with it. How do we do it? There are lots of different ideas, ways of connecting communities through language learning and intercultural language learning, or intercultural learning in general. Even if, for teachers who are teaching maths, that doesn't mean that they can't be teaching intercultural competences all the time. It's much easier, I think, as a language learner or a language teacher to include intercultural competences in our teaching, because it just goes hand in hand. Language and culture are inextricably linked. You can't really separate them. But really, if you're teaching history, you're teaching geography, you're teaching science, it's the same thing. You still should be teaching curiosity and having an open mind and all of these intercultural competences. What we can see on the screen at the moment, for example, are just examples of things that we've done. On the left, we can see our, this is our Spanish leader in INBIL, in UNAD. He's called René, and he leads our program, which used to be called Español para extranjeros. And we changed the name last year for Español para todos, because we wanted to be much more inclusive, particularly because of this kind of project that you can see on the screen. The photo there is René with a group of Yukpa people from the Yukpa indigenous community on the coast. And he was working with them, teaching them communicative competences in Spanish, because they speak Spanish, but it's not their first language. Their first language comes from their Yukpa community. So Spanish is their second language, and we wanted to be able to help them to have more communicative competences so that they can tell their stories on a more national and international scale. So that's why we changed our name from Español para extranjeros, because obviously these people are not extranjeros, for Español para todos. And it's a way of accessing this intercultural competence to build bridges and to connect communities. This helped this particular indigenous community to connect with the rest of Colombia, with the rest of Latin America, the rest of the Spanish-speaking world, for example. After that, we can see, I don't know how you pronounce that one, so I'm not going to try, but it's Conociendo Pueblo Pasto. And it was a conversatorio para entender raíces, historia y territorio. And again, it was a congress that we held, again, from INBIL, with some other indigenous communities in Pasto. So again, a similar kind of experience, not an academic course per se, but more a congress that particular time. At the bottom, you can see Linguistic Diversity Day, which is something that we helped carry out in Girardot to have people build more awareness, I guess, about diversity in languages. The third picture is a guy called, what's he called? Tim Kutz? His name's just escaped me. Matt Kutz. He has a TED Talk. That's him at his TED Talk. I don't know if you've ever seen it. You can have a look online. And he talks about having a 30-day challenge. And it's something I did with some students a few years ago, where I asked them to spend 1 month, 30 days, exploring and becoming part of a different cultural group. So explore it. Doesn't matter what it is. You can decide, depending how extreme you want to be. Some people decided to explore a new religion for a month, and they had to write a blog about it. That was the language part. Somebody else decided to become a vegetarian for a month. Somebody else decided to be an urban cyclist for a month in Bogota, which is not easy. And they had to write a blog about it. You can see on the right-hand side a photo of some students from a different university. And it was a private university, and the students were generally from quite privileged backgrounds. And where they are at the moment is in El Barrio Egipto, which is a vulnerable neighborhood in Bogota. And they're talking to a lady who had lived there her whole life, and she was telling them the story. And well, I took them up there with somebody who used to run a program, I guess. We had a volunteer program to help people who were from gangs up there and trying to get them out of that. Building bridges, connecting those communities. The people, the students were at External University, which is right next to El Barrio Egipto. Like you cross a road and you're there. And yet they're very, very separate communities, very, very separate cultural groups, very, very separate people. And they didn't mix at all. So trying to get them together, get them to tell each other their stories, it builds a lot of bridges, and it really helped to create a lot more patience and tolerance, I think, in the neighborhood. So all of these things are ways that we can connect communities, whether it's through language teaching or any other way. having exposure to different varieties of language, getting into the language itself. This photograph is taken in a stadium. It says, how are the lads? This is taken in Sunderland football stadium in England. This is where I'm from. This is my hometown. You may not have heard of it. And I'm going to show you, I guess everybody here, I hope everybody here speaks English, because otherwise you're not understanding me at all. But I'm going to show you a little bit of English spoken in my hometown. So I'm going to read it for you. And I want you to think about what the answer might be if somebody asked you this question. Okay? So you go to Sunderland, somebody asks you this question, what do you say? Os y gannon dyn the tune is coming with what? I'll repeat it. Os y gannon dyn the tune is coming with what? I imagine probably you don't understand that. It is English, I promise you. I'll give you a little bit of help. So I'm going to write it now. This is a little bit closer to standard English, I guess. Us are going down to the town centre. Are you coming with we? That's kind of the same thing. Do you understand it now? You might understand it a lot better because there are real words spelled correctly. However, it's not quite right, is it? What should it say in standard English? It should say, we are going down to the town centre. Would you like to come with us? It's an invitation. We're going to the centre of town. Would you like to come with me? Or would you like to come with us? How do we say it? Us are going to do the tune. Is coming with her. It's dialect. It's accent. It's all of these things that people don't necessarily understand if they're not from that cultural group. And people will adapt the way they speak to help people from outside a cultural group to understand, obviously. However, we need to understand that that is a thing. People in Colombia or anywhere else tend to watch Bridgerton and these very English, very typically British films and series and think everybody in England speaks like the Queen. It's not the case. There are lots and lots of dialects. There are lots and lots of ways of speaking and different cultural groups, whether it's regional cultural groups or cultural. In terms of age, for example, teenagers speak in a very different way to older people in Spanish, in English, in Chinese, in any other language. Yeah, so we need to be aware of that and help to expose our students to different languages or to the different varieties, of language. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that we all see things very differently, okay? And we need to respect others' opinion. If we do that, I think we're fine. Lord Thomas Dewar is famous for saying that minds are like parachutes and they work best when they're open. If we keep an open mind, anything is possible. And all of this communication, all of this interculturality can and will happen because they are journeys that we share. We need to connect communities through intercultural language learning, and that's what I was trying to present today. So thank you so much for your attention, and I am here for any questions that anybody might have.
Professor Jill, thank you so much for your significant presentation. It has been really, really interesting. In fact, you remind me, the last part, you remind me to the Scouse accent, the Scousers. So yeah, the first time that you heard is so different from the general English, as you said. So it's something really, really new for us. Professor Jill, we have some questions for you, okay? So I'm going to read one for you. The first question is, what emotions do you experience while connecting with other cultures through this project?
That's a very good question. I think we experience lots of emotions when we do this. I think, first of all, most people experience fear. And that's where othering comes from. The idea of othering and talking about the other, they do this and they do that, and prejudice comes from fear. It's because it's different, I don't understand it, and therefore I reject it. When we sit down and have these conversations or produce these projects, it's scary because you're going out of your comfort zone. But once you leave that comfort zone and you start talking to somebody, you realize that people are just people. Rich people, poor people, black people, white people, yellow people, we're all just people. We're all human beings, and we all have children, and we all do the same things. We all eat, we all sleep, we all do exercise, we all, and we're just people. And once you get past that first initial barrier of fear, it's absolutely thrilling. For me, it's enthralling. You get it's almost an adrenaline rush from absolute happiness about understanding somebody else. And you always learn. Basically, you always learn from other people. So if you like learning, which I think if you're here online today, it's because you do, then you're going to be thrilled to be able to have that intercultural link with anybody else.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's really interesting. Sometimes we take for granted those emotions, and it's really important to take into account. I mean, it's really important to be conscious about it, right? Okay, another question is, how can our local educational communities adapt to intercultural learning models that often originate in international contexts?
I think like anything, again, it's a good question because obviously a lot of, guidelines, projects do come from international contexts, international organizations. Sometimes you try to form a replica of something that happened somewhere else. And that's not a bad thing. I think sometimes people reject something because it feels like it's being imposed from somewhere else and by somebody who doesn't understand our local context. And while that's a perfectly valid feeling, I guess, that's the challenge. The challenge is to contextualize everything that you do. At UNAD, we do it all the time. Why? Because we have to, because we have 72 centers in Colombia. We have one in Europe. We have one in USA. So you have to adapt what you're doing for wherever you are. I remember, for example, a few years ago doing a project with el Ministerio de Industria, Turismo y no sé qué. And we carried out the project. It was for contextualized English. And we did it first in Nuquí. So we went to Nuquí and we taught them English for Nuquí. So it was all about la ballena, no sé qué, el manglar, no sé cuál, digi, digi, digi. I had to learn it all myself because I had no idea how you said mangle in English. So I had to go and learn it all and then go and teach the people in Nuquí. The project itself, we replicated. It was really successful. Everybody in Nuquí was really happy. We replicated the project in La Macarena, in Meta, where there are no ballenas, right? There are no whales in Meta, obviously. So we took the project core, or the structure of it, and we filled it in with all of the vocabulary about the birds and the trees and the plants in Meta. And then they wanted to do it again, and then we didn't have time to replicate it somewhere else. But basically, the projects themselves can be replicated anywhere. Most of them. Obviously, not everything works everywhere. But most things can be replicated if they're successful, if they've been well designed. But you need to contextualize it, obviously. You need to go to that local zone, to that particular cultural group, if it's not a regional group, or it might be a gender group. What works for men might not work for women, might not work for non-binary. So you need to bear in mind your context and adapt it appropriately.
That's really true. Really interesting. We have another question from the audience, Professor Jill. What strategies would you recommend to ensure that students not only learn a new language, but also develop genuine intercultural awareness in the classroom?
There are different strategies you can use. What I was describing before about what we did with the Matt Cutts thing was to have a journal. So like anything you teach, you always evaluate. And there are different ways of evaluating that. So if you can have them keep a journal and give them feedback and say, okay, what did you think about this? Before they did the 30-day challenge in that particular case, we did another activity pre the 30 days, which was a cultural observation. So you just go to a different cultural group and you observe and you fill in a table. And it's what you describe, you evaluate, you analyze, what you see. And you write up a little description of what happened. Maybe you give a presentation. I saw this, I thought this, da, 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 da. And then the idea with those particular students was you can either choose to go and be part of that cultural group for 30 days or a different one. Because some people went to observe, I don't know, I remember one student was really curious about the Mormon church. So they went to a Mormon church, they observed, but then they said, I don't want to be a Mormon for a month. Okay, fine. So then they chose a different cultural group and went to be a vegetarian for a month or whatever. And that's fine. But you need to just find ways of evaluating it, and having open conversations is usually the way forward, basically, whether it's written or verbal.
Okay, Ms. Fortune. You have mentioned in your presentation about the stereotypes. The stereotypes is something that as teachers we need to work on, right? So there's a question regarding these stereotypes, is in what ways can we integrate intercultural perspectives in teaching so that students move beyond stereotypes?
I think talking about them, essentially. Don't hide from stereotypes. What I mentioned before, stereotypes come from something. Stereotypes don't just appear. People don't just decide that English people are cold. Not all English people are cold, but it comes from the fact that when you go to England, people are not as open as perhaps a Latin American culture. However, we just need to have those conversations and then try to get in there and look at different cultural manifestations, if you like. Obviously, not everybody can go to England and live in England for a year. If you can, great. If not, no. And we can't go to every culture, every country in the world and go and experience it for ourselves. But we live in an age where we have so much information on internet, in films, and books, whatever. So really just trying to access and bring that information to our students so that they can combat stereotypes with reality, basically, get in touch with those people. We've just signed an agreement, for example, with IVE, which is the International Virtual Exchange Program. It's run through Australia, but they link students from Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, lots of different countries in the world, in this case with Colombia, so that they can practice their English. So a Colombian is going to be speaking English with a Japanese person. Neither of them is their native language, but they get to practice their English and also learn something about that culture. So trying to get people involved in those kinds of projects really is invaluable.
Really great, Ms. Fortune. And we have maybe the last question. I think this is the last question. This is something really personal. Okay. What personal experiences did you gain from participating in Journeys We Share?
Oh, in this presentation, wow. Well, it's always an absolute pleasure to be able to talk to people. I haven't had that much interaction, obviously, from the audience, but it's lovely to be able to share ideas and hopefully inspire people to be able to learn as much as I have over the last few years, being able to participate in this kind of project. So the idea that people who are connected might go on and be able to replicate some of these ideas is very fulfilling for me. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fortune. This has been really significant for us. I think for the audience as well. I have seen many comments about your presentation. I mean, really said, many said about your accent, because you have a really nice Colombian accent and your British accent as well, And well, Ms. Fortune, thank you so much. That was really impressive.
No, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
One more reminder: to secure your certification, Please complete the evaluation form at the end of this block.
Okay, and continuing with our journey, we'd like to invite you to learn more about the academic program that makes this Congress possible. Up next, we'll show a presentation video of the bachelor degree in foreign languages with emphasis in English delay at UNAD, a program deeply committed to preparing teacher researchers who lead and inspire innovation in language education. Enjoy the video.
Hola, soy Ed, el asistente virtual diseñado especialmente para los estudiantes de la licenciatura en lenguas extranjeras con énfasis en inglés de la UNAD. Estoy aquí para hacer tu aprendizaje más fácil, claro y divertido. Conmigo tendrás acceso rápido a tu información académica, tareas, recordatorios y materiales de estudio. ¿Tienes dudas sobre tu curso? ¿No sabes por dónde empezar? Estoy disponible las 24 horas, los 7 días de la semana para ayudarte. Me verás en videos, banners informativos y materiales pedagógicos. También formaré parte de un videojuego, una aventura que no querrás perderte. Aparezco en plataformas web, móviles y hasta en Microsoft Teams, siempre listo para apoyarte en tu camino académico. Soy más que una herramienta, soy tu compañero de estudio, un símbolo de innovación educativa y parte de esta gran comunidad unadista. Transforma tu experiencia de aprendizaje en una gran aventura.
We now continue with Workshop 2, Interculturality, Principles to Support Effective English Learning in the Intercultural Class, led by Professor Jaime Ancajima. The session will be introduced by Professor Steffi Gracie Marin from the Research Civet CIPIL, who will also moderate and guide the Q&A segment with our speaker. Let's welcome them.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to introduce to you Jaime Ancajima from the Universidad de Piura, Peru. He holds a bachelor's degree in education, a master's degree in TEFL from the Universidad Europea del Atlántico, a TESOL certificate from St. Mary's University, England, a Skills and Principles in Language Teacher Training Workshop Design, Observation, and Feedback Certificate from Centro Espiral Maná, Institute for Collaborative Learning in Costa Rica in American Culture and Society Institute, certificate from New York University, USA. He has delivered face-to-face workshops and plenaries in Ecuador, Colombia, Costa Rica, Peru, and Spain. He has also presented online webinars and plenaries in Argentina, Bolivia, Mexico, India, the USA, Costa Rica, and Peru. He's interested in teacher training, building language communities, and learning from everyone. Since 2020, he has been running the International English online meetings. Dr. Ancajima, please remember that you have 30 minutes for your presentation and 10 minutes for questions. You may begin with your presentation.
Thank you so much, dear friends of Colombia and everywhere in the world who is listening and watching us. So I thought that I had 50 minutes to present, but that's okay. I'll try to do my best and present in 30 minutes. So the name of my presentation today is Principles to Support Effective English Learning in the Intercultural Class. If anybody wants to contact me, this is my WhatsApp and this is my email. I will be more than grateful to share any material you want from my presentation. Okay, this is the university where I work. It's called Universidad de Piura because the city is called Piura. Then this is the way my city looks. Okay, what are we going to do in this presentation? We are going to reflect together. Why? Because we don't learn from experience, but we learn from reflecting on experiences. Now, what is effective learning? Something very important to keep in mind. Effective learning is, let me show you, when the methods actively involve children in their own learning and personal development. That is very important, the personal development of our students. Does our teaching style matter? Yes, of course. Now, what shapes our teaching style? Our age, our personality, our background, engagement, motivation, teaching philosophy, beliefs, experiences we have had, studies we have, teachers you had, characteristics of your students, the learning environment, politics of the institution, and so on. Now, does experience in different culture scenarios matter when we teach? Of course it does. Let me show you a little bit about my experience. I have worked in 5 different schools and 5 different institutes, okay? And also at the education school here in my university. I had this TESOL course in England where I had to teach students from different nationalities from Italy, France, Turkey, Iran, Africa, etc. And in the TESOL course in Costa Rica, I worked with teachers from Chile, from Mexico, from Colombia, from Spain, from Portugal, different countries in the world. Then I had this American Culture and Society Institute in New York, where I worked with 15 professors from different countries in the world. Then I also had the chance of working with Confucio Institute Chinese teachers, giving them a classroom management course. And finally, I had Spanish classes with Canadian students last year. And 5 years ago, we started this beautiful experience of organizing monthly work
Excuse me?
webinars. Yes.
Dear professor, I'm sorry, you were right. You have 50 minutes for your presentation. I'm sorry, I was wrong. You have 50 minutes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, dear Steffi. Then 5 years ago, I started these monthly work webinars. It's been 5 years, and we have had like 140 speakers from different countries in the world. So all this experience has given me a lot of feedback, a lot of information, a lot of ideas, a lot of things to think about when working in an intercultural classroom. So number one, let's establish what is interculturality, okay? So interculturality, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. Sorry, just a minute. I can see myself. You see the presentation? Really?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Oh, but I can't. I don't know what happened. Just a minute. I don't know what happened. Here it is. Now I can see it. Sorry. So what is interculturality? Is being able to understand. Okay. I don't know what happened. Why I can't go to the next. Let me leave. Sorry. Compartir. Okay. And here it is. I don't know what's wrong. My screen. Let me try to do it again, please. Okay. Here it is, but I don't know why I can't. Okay, now it is. Being able to, sorry about that. Sorry about it. Being able to understand, relate to, and being open toward different cultures, ethnicity, religion, language, nationality, and so many other things. Now, what is intercultural learning? Intercultural learning is the process of becoming more aware of and better understanding one's own culture and other cultures around the world. Now, the question after this is, why is interculturality important? Well, it leads to more tolerance, acceptance, and stronger relationships among people of diverse backgrounds. Now, do you know how many definitions of culture exist? Anybody knows? Well, there are more than 100 definitions of culture. Some definitions are a way of life, a set of social practices, a system of beliefs, a shared history, experiences. Culture may be synonyms with a country or a region or a nationality. We talk about being aware, and the question here is, what is cultural awareness? Well, cultural awareness is a fifth skill, the ability to be aware of cultural relativity besides reading, writing, listening, and speaking. As I mentioned before, I have had these different experiences in different parts of the world, working and connecting people from different countries, and their beliefs, their religions, their way of speaking, even Mexicans, Colombians, Chileans, Peruvians, Bolivians. We have our particular way of expressing our ideas in spite of speaking Spanish, but that is because we are culturally different. Now, what is intercultural communicative competence? Something that we are going to talk about today. Well, raise the students' awareness, not only the teachers, but also the students' awareness of their own culture, and help them to interpret, understand other cultures. A set of practices requiring knowledge, skill, and attitudes, that is competences. So here we have a list of different competences that we need to have when working with intercultural classroom. Observe, identify, and recognize. Compare and contrast. Negotiate meaning. Deal with or tolerate ambiguity. Effectively interpret messages. Defend your own point of view, acknowledge the legitimacy of others. Accept difference and reduce the risk of misinterpretation. Now, here is the most important part of this presentation. How does this affect the role of the teacher? Well, the teacher must be an educator before than being an instructor. Then the teacher must help students become more aware of the world around them. Teachers must help students better interact with the world. And finally, bring culture into the classroom and be unique mediators of cultural relativity. I don't know about the 1,882 people who are listening to us and watching us in YouTube. I don't know about your experiences, but before traveling abroad, when I was teaching English in the classroom, my students usually ask me, teacher, because that's the way they refer to us in Peru, teacher, have you been to the USA? And I said, no. Teacher, have you been to England? No. And then when I traveled and I studied there, it was completely different, my approach to the students. I could tell them the way most people behave, about their customs, their food, and my interaction with my students was much better than before. Now, there are 6 principles to support effective English learning and intercultural class. There are 6 principles. They are not the only one, but of course, according to my experience and in the different classrooms that I have worked in schools, institutes, university schools, and conferences around the world, I can tell you that they do really work. Number one is get to know your learners. Every time you have a new class, collect information about your learners' families, languages, cultures, and educational background. What kind of information you need or you should collect? Home city, cultural background, level of proficiency, home language literacy level, educational background, special and individual needs, prior knowledge of the language, learning preferences and styles, cultural knowledge, life experiences, interests, gifts and talent, life goals, and social emotional background. This is the most important information that we should collect when working with students from different cultures. Number one. Another idea about getting to know our students, we need to prepare lessons based on the information collected and take advantage of the resources that learners bring to the classroom to enhance learning. For example, the university where I work is on the coast, and Peru is divided in three natural regions: the coast, the highland, and the jungle. In my university, we have mostly students from the coast, but we also have students from the jungle, from the highland. So what I usually do, I encourage these students to talk about their regions, to talk about their towns, their people, their food, their culture, so we can learn. And we do the same with them. We teach them, we talk to them about our customs and ideas and beliefs, and then the classroom get enriched. Number two is create conditions for language learning. What is that? For example, we have new students, give students a warm welcome. I'm a very friendly teacher, so at the beginning, the students feel a little bit shy, a little bit introvert about using the language from the very, very beginning. So it takes them a few minutes to get involved. But the warmer you are, the more confident the students feel. So giving students a warm welcome every day is very important in our classes because it reduces the affected filter. What else? Design appropriate work spaces and organize the physical environment of the classroom. This is the way I usually like to work with my students. If they are looking at each other, not giving their back to the other ones, so they can get to know each other and see them in their eyes. Not always, I don't always work like this, but this is something that I personally like because it invites the students to get to know each other. Another idea about getting to know the students is use clear and routine language to communicate. Praise students for effort and persistence. Something that I do in my class all the time, and it works when students do something correct. I have my students say, hey, excellent, and everyone does that. Everyone, all the students. At the beginning, there are some students who are reluctant to do that because they are serious, and I respect their personalities. But once they understand that doing, yeah, when everybody does something right, even when they do something wrong, it makes them feel more confident and more part of the class. Another idea is prompt students to connect their learning to their own lives. This is something very important. When we teach a certain grammar point, immediately get the students personalize their examples. If we start talking about Philip Stevenson on a reading, but then we never talk about their lives, students will feel not connected. So what I highly recommend is to connect any topic that you are studying with your students' own lives. Number 5 is make decisions to get the social integration of all students. I remember having a student who was blind, 90% blind. Now she's a professor at the law school here in my university. She's 100% blind, but unbelievably, she learned to speak. So we as teachers need to make decisions to get not only the social integration of all students, but also that the students feel part of the class. It doesn't matter the problem or condition they have. Number 2 is design high quality lessons for language development. Some ideas, okay. Number 1 is plan meaningful lessons with clear outcomes. This is the lesson plan that I learned to use in St. Mary's University in London, in England, like 15 years ago. And this is what we use at our institute. Here we have the aim, the target language, the assumption of our students' knowledge, anticipated problems, its material, and the stages that we follow. Okay, it works very well with me, with us, with all of us. I don't know what kind of lesson plans you have, but you can have a look and maybe try if it works with you. What else? Develop learning strategies and critical thinking. Because of the overuse of technological tools nowadays, used by not only by students, but also by teachers, we highly recommend to develop different learning strategies and critical thinking. As we know, critical thinking is we have a problem, we think, we analyze, we reflect, and we get a solution. What about learning strategies? Well, we have different strategies here you can see in a small class, in large classes, case studies, role plays, 1-minute paper, think, pair, share, index card pass, and things like that. What else? Talking about the point number 3, provide input through different approaches, methods, and techniques. Something that I like doing with my students is giving them input about their listening, speaking, reading, writing before the exams, before the quizzes. We shouldn't wait for the results of the quizzes or the exams to give input to the students. Remember, well, this is what I tell my students, that the purpose of the class is not taking quizzes or getting grades or doing grammar or doing exercises. But the purpose of the class is learning and getting a change in their personality, getting to learn to do something new that they didn't know before. It's not only getting the information, but learning to think, learning to analyze, learning to do something with the new information they obtain. Another idea is plan your lessons based on the learning objectives. This is the book we use in Centro de Idiomas in my university, okay? And this is the beginning of a unit. It has the goal, it has the grammar, it has the vocabulary. What I usually recommend new teachers, and we also talk among all the senior teachers, to pay attention to grammar, okay, to pay attention to vocabulary, okay, but keep in mind that the most important part of the class is the goal. The goal is used in the grammar, the goal is used in the vocabulary, the goal must be present in every single activity we prepare. Number 4 is adapt lessons delivery, as needed. What is it? Number 1, assess your work while teaching. This is another part of the book we use. We usually have our students reflect at the end of the unit, and we ask, how confident do you feel about the state of the statement, excuse me, below, right, 1 to 5. If you don't want to use this, you can ask the students to write on pieces of paper how they feel, what problems they struggle with, what misunderstandings, what confusions, but the most important, the feelings, how they feel, if they feel they are learning or not. Check students' comprehension. How? Using these different strategies and skills. Now, something important to mention here is a schema or schemata is the mental framework or concept created to organize and interpret information. This is something that I like to use with my students because they can express their ideas from their personal point of view. So you have using a schema, predicting, inferring, questioning, determining importance, visualizing, synthesizing, etc., etc. Let me remind you, if you want a copy of this presentation, I will be very happy to send it to you. Another idea about this point number 4 is observe and reflect on your learners' responses and adjust instruction according to these responses. I don't know if you teachers or future teachers do this. When you give students an exam and you get the results 20s, 19s, 15s, 16s, is that all you do, or you reflect about the quiz that you prepare and you gave your students? Something that we teachers, at least in my country, don't do is to assess on the process of teaching and learning. And what do we understand by assessing here? It is analyzing student responses, help teachers gauge their understanding of the material and identify areas where students may be struggling. If we think that our classes are 100% clear, we are wrong. If we think that everything we teach our students will learn immediately, we are wrong. We need to ask our students to give us feedback. I know that many teachers say, but what about if they criticize me? We are human beings, so we must be open to students' points of view and not be afraid of feeling vulnerable. It's okay to feel vulnerable. Number 5. Number 5 is monitor and assess student language development. Remember, language learners learn at different rates, even teachers. I am 62 years old, chronologically speaking, and I'm old in my institute. Most teachers are 40, 30, 29, okay. So I usually explain to them that when it's something technological, it takes me longer to learn something. And I explain that we learn at different rates, but something that we must pay attention to in our classes is this information. Students learn 90% of what we say and do in doing, simulating, doing, and doing. Not only reading, not only hearing, not only looking, not only watching, not only seeing, but also participating, being actively part of the class, giving a talk, doing a dramatic presentation, simulating the real experience. This is something that really works. Next, regularly monitor and assess their students, their language and development. Monitor students' errors provide feedback, repeat what is necessary, provide ongoing effective feedback strategically. Other data to measure student language growth. This is something that can help you. You write here the name of the students, and here you give a record of what the students are doing and the way they learn better or they don't every single day or every single unit. Number 6 and the last one. Number 6 and the last one. Number 6 is engage and collaborate within a community of practice. I would say that this is the most important part of being a professor. Do not be afraid if there are people who are younger than you and they know more than you. Do not be afraid if there are people in your work who are masters or who have a PhD, but you still don't have one. That's not the problem. The problem is if you have been teaching for many years and you don't study something new, if you don't learn something new, if you don't try something new. The competition, okay, the competition is not with the other colleagues, it's not with your peers. The competition is with yourself. So let me tell you a little bit about what we mean by engage and collaborate within a community of practice. Something beautiful is to collaborate with your colleagues. Plan and co-teach. I don't know if you do this, but I love doing this. I tell Alex, for example, who works next to my classroom, I say, Alex, next week, could you please go to my class and teach this grammar or this song or this point for 20 minutes, 25 minutes to my students, and I will go to yours. So we co-plan and we co-teach. What is the result? The students love it. The students are excited about listening to two different tones, two different ways of teaching, two different ways of approaching. After 2 or 3 weeks, I do the same, but with another student, with another teacher. And the students love the diversity. Now, what is the problem? That some professors, some teachers don't like having a new teacher in their classrooms because they consider that those teachers are better, those teachers have more experience. But I explain to them that we are different. We are different, and there is no problem of being different. What else? Provide support to your colleagues with their programming and instruction, especially if they are new, especially if they are young. What else? Help others to continue with their professional learning. I'm 62 and I'm studying a second master degree. I want to learn about how to work on research, on doing research with my students. So we should not feel embarrassed or ashamed and understand that we will always learn, that we teachers are students until our last day of life. Now, if you want some bibliography, I have this book, The 6 Principles for Exemplary Teaching of English Learning. I have the PDF of this book. So if you want this book, please write to me and I will send it to you. I don't have this book, but if I get them, I will try to send them to you. And here you have some links on this topic. I will send you the presentation and you can do your own research. Now, here we have some final thoughts. I don't know, Steffi, if we, before the final thoughts, we can go with some questions or at the end.
As you want, dear professor, I think it's better at the end.
All right. Thank you so much, Steffi. I will ask you for your support, dear Steffi. Could you help me, please, reading out this thought?
Of course. Children are better able to learn when the classroom climate is positive, warm, and inviting.
Yes. Sorry, go on.
Part of being welcome is seeing your own language and culture reflected throughout all aspects of the classroom.
Yeah, let me ask you something, dear Steffi. What part of Colombia are you from?
I'm from Vélez in Santander.
Okay. What is something that people from Bogota don't know about your town?
Maybe our culture.
Yes.
We are very recognized for a food, like a snack called bocadillo veleño. Bocadillo veleño is a snack made from guava and sugar, and it's delicious. Maybe our dances, we dance a typical, maybe from our past cultures, and we've got a special, how can I say this, like shirts and skirts and many things that we only use here in Vélez.
Okay. What about your accent, Steffi? Do you have a special accent? For example, people from my city in Piura is in the north of Peru, very close to your country, Colombia, very close. I've been to Florencia, Caquetá, I've been to Bogota, and I've been to this city 2 hours away from Bogota. Oh my God, I don't remember. But everywhere I go in Colombia, I can hear different accents. What about your accent, dear Steffi?
My accent is Santanderiano. We have 32 departments in Colombia, and our culture is very diverse, and we have many accents. You can go to the north, and you can find an accent to the south of Colombia, and you can find a total different accent. So we have many things to know about different departments.
Okay, and the last question, sorry, Steffi, the last question. As I said, I'm from Piura, and we have something like a Mexican accent when we speak in Spanish. And we go to the capital city, Lima, they turn their faces and they say, you are from Piura, from the north. Does that happen to you too?
Of course, it happens the same here in Colombia. You can easily find someone who is from the Caribbean coast, and you can easily identify people from the south. Because their accent is very known.
It's beautiful, right? Yeah. No, thank you so much, Steffi. I hope somebody else here in the audience can help me read the next one. It could be Sergio, Silvia, Angelica, Valeria, Juana, or Jose. Anybody, please, who can read the next final thought. Thank you, Silvia, Juliana.
Teachers must match the diversity of their classroom with their own diversity of methods and materials they use to engage and teach students.
Any idea, my dear Silvia, Juliana, when you read teachers must match the diversity of their classroom, something to say about it?
Well, I think as a teachers, we need to understand the context we are teaching in, right? And something I like to do when I teach is adapt materials to Colombian context, because sometimes we just it's good to show students different cultures, but it's also important to include our own culture. And sometimes the material as they are brought from other countries, especially USA.
Do you work at a public institution or private institution?
I work here at UNAT.
Okay, and the diversity of the students is big, it's small?
It's so big because we have different students from all different departments, as Steffi was mentioning. So yeah, we have to work with different cultures. And for example, I have the course Didactics of English, and of course, when my students plan their classes, they must be aware of their students' level, but also their culture and the content they are teaching in to adapt those materials.
Okay, thank you so much, dear Sylvia. I need another volunteer, please, to read the next quote. Anybody here in the audience who can give me a hand? Sergio, Angelica, Valeria, or Juana, please.
I can do.
Thank you so much, Juana Valentina.
Research tells us that culturally responsive teaching practices promote the social, emotional, and academic development of all students.
What does this quote make you think? Do you have something to say about research? Tell us that culturally responsive teaching practices. I didn't know this how do you say this sentence? Culturally responsive teaching practices. Are you aware? Have you heard this expression before? Culturally responsive teaching practices?
I didn't hear this sentence before, this quote before, but I'm quite aware of how research could shape our teaching abilities. And I'm pretty sure my students do know a lot about it because we work a lot into taking research as a tool for improving our own teaching abilities and our own abilities into the classroom, and how we behave and how we involve and develop our own teaching practices.
Something that I pay a lot of attention, dear Juana, is the emotional development of my students. Because the more, the safer, the more confident they are, the more integrated, the more connected with the class they are, the safer they feel emotionally talking. How would you say that emotions are developed in your classroom?
Well, I try to connect with my students. It might be a little bit difficult because of virtual classrooms, but
Yes.
I try to be really responsive and I try to connect with them, trying to answer to their questions in an accurate way, and I try to care what they're talking about as much as they let me, because
Yeah.
also when you work at virtual environments, you need to know that you will be working with people that maybe don't want to be too close to you. Therefore,
Right.
I am as close as they let me to be close.
Yes, that's a wonderful point, dear Juana. Thank you so much. Thank you. Next one. This is something that I love. Anybody else, please, here in the audience? I love this quote. Anybody who wants to read, please? Could be somebody who has already read.
Be teachable.
Yeah, Steffi.
Okay. Be teachable. Teachable. You're not always right.
Do you agree or strongly disagree?
I strongly agree.
Ah, I thought you were going to say I strongly disagree.
No, I agree.
What does it mean to you? What does it make you think?
We as human beings, we make many mistakes,
Of
and
course.
I was thinking about the question you asked me before about my accent, and
Yeah.
I answered Santanderiano because I'm from Colombia, but maybe you were asking about English, English or American accent.
No.
No?
About your Colombian accent.
Okay. And maybe when we are through a class, we try to teach what we know, but maybe we don't know what students know, and they can teach us
Of course.
a lot of things that we maybe don't know about their culture, as you said before, their accent, or maybe things that we as teachers can really study more to help them to grow as a person, not just as a professional.
Or maybe, Steffi, I don't know if this has happened to you, but a student telling you, teacher, that is incorrect because I read here that, and this is correct. And you had to say, oops, yes, you are right, and I am wrong. That has happened to me, and I say, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we are not always right.
Yeah, and there was a phrase that I liked a lot, and it was, the competition is with yourself.
Yes.
Because I like this phrase because I think we can always be our best version every day. Each day we can work in order to be our best version of ourselves.
Yes. Thank you so much, Steffi. We got two more quotes before the last comments. It's the teacher that makes the difference, not the classroom. Yeah. We sometimes don't like that or this classroom, and we say that the students are like that, the students behave this way, but sometimes it's us, the ones who have to change. So it's the teacher that makes the difference, not the classroom. And finally, this is the final quote. I would like anybody else, please, to help me. It can be Silvia, Sergio, Juana, you, Steffi, Valeria, Angelica, or Jose. Anybody else, please, could read this final quote, and then we go to the question, comments, concerns, complaints section. Thank you, Silvia. Juliana. Juliana? Juliana.
Juliana.
Juliana. Thank you, Silvia. Juliana.
If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn.
What does it make you think?
I think we have to adapt our teaching and make it more available for students. Maybe we need to understand the different ways they learned, and we need to integrate those ways into our teaching practices, right? For example, if I see that my students are not approving the course so I have also to reflect upon my own teaching practice and say, well, maybe I need to change them. It's not all their fault. Maybe I also share responsibility in their process, right?
Of course, a very important part. Yes, that's true. I remember, Silvia, I was in a conference in Colombia, in Florencia, like 12 years ago, and there was this teacher in the audience. He said to me at the back of this place where we were, and he said, your ideas, Jaime, are wonderful, but what about if you go and work in the jungle? No water, no electricity. And I said, yeah, you are right. But if you want to be a teacher, if you really want to be an educator, if you really decided to study this career because of your desire, because you want it, you will do it well. So that is something that I want to say in my final word in this presentation today. It's us, the ones who made the difference. It's us, the ones who have to learn something new. So now it's time for me to say thank you so much. This is my email. This is my WhatsApp number. If you want if you want the presentation, if you want one of the books in PDF, I can send it to you. And now Steffi will have a few minutes for any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, dear Professor Jaime and Kahima. We've got some questions for you.
Oh my God.
The first question is, what role do you think cultural awareness plays in reducing language learning anxiety among foreign language settings?
Excellent question. I don't know who made that wonderful question. Anxiety nowadays is something that is controlling the world. It controls teachers, it controls. Would you believe me if I told you, Steffi, and everyone else here, that I was nervous before this presentation? I've been an English teacher for 38 years. I've been giving conference for more than 15 years, but I still feel anxious, nervous. Now, what is the role of the teacher in this case? Number one, give the students a safe place. A safe place. Nobody laughs at anyone. Everyone accepts everyone. We all make mistakes. We are a family. Yes, that is something that I learned in Costa Rica in the studies I had. When we have a new class, the first thing we must do is get a family, get a community. So then everyone will respect everyone. It doesn't matter how old, where you are from. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter your religion. It doesn't matter. Everything that matters is that we are human beings, part of the same community.
Thank you, dear professor. The second question is, in what ways can the principles of interculturalism motivate students to learn English by connecting the language to their own culture and that of others?
Okay, thank you for that wonderful question too. I would say that the first one who has to change, the first one who has to adapt himself or herself, the first one who has to keep in mind all these principles is the teacher. If the teacher doesn't want to work with these students and these students and these students all together in the same classroom, there won't be any good change. The class will be a chaos. The class will have no discipline. So I repeat, it's the teacher, the first one to accept that diversity, culturally speaking, talking about religion, talking about origin of the students, is the teacher the one who has to understand that diversity and interculturality is part of teaching and learning a language. And not only a language, as I mentioned before, is a fifth skill. Culturality, culture is a fifth skill. So if I go to work to Colombia in your city, Steffi, I have to learn. I need to learn the way the people in your city behave, what they like, what they don't like, what they hate, what they love, and respect that.
Okay, the next question is, how can teachers address challenges when cultural diversity in the classroom leads to misunderstandings or conflicts among students?
That's a real hard question. As I said before, I had this course in Costa Rica with teachers from different parts of Latin America, the other course in London with teachers from Europe, and in the USA with teachers from all over the world. There were some moments, dear Steffi, and the one who made that wonderful question, when some people got angry at other people, but we didn't understand because we all spoke English. We didn't say bad words. We didn't swear. We didn't treat anybody wrong, but we weren't aware of what is considered correct or right depending of the country that person came from. So how to avoid misunderstandings. There are books, Steffi, and the one who made that wonderful question, there are books that explain to you the way that people behave in certain countries and certain cultures. For example, in Arabia, I know that you have to burp at the end of a meal to express that you liked that food. If you don't burp, they think that, oops, he didn't like the food that I gave him. So this, I would say, Steffi, that is one of the most crucial things about interculturality, not knowing what could affect the other people's emotions or feelings. So we need to ask and be humble and ask, sorry, did my words hurt you? Did I say something wrong? And ask for feedback.
And the last question is...
Yeah. I feel afraid of the question.
No, no worry. There are many questions that I have just been reading 4 questions. The last question is, in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge teachers face when trying to incorporate interculturality into language learning?
Definitely, if you don't travel, Steffi, if you don't know other cultures, if you don't talk to people from other countries, if you don't read about other cultures, you will have not only one challenge, you will have many challenges. The more you travel, the more you meet other people, the more you read and learn about other cultures, your classes will be more successful. My students love when I tell them that in the United States this, that in Costa Rica this, that in Colombia this. They love that because they know I've been there, and I motivate them, I encourage them to travel to those countries if they have the money, if they have the economical situation that allows them to do that. Traveling, I always tell my students, traveling, you don't spend money, you invest money to learn about the new countries. So that is my recommendation. Travel, meet people, be adventurous. Don't feel afraid of doing something wrong. Be afraid of not doing anything. So it's a must. We English, French, Italian, Portuguese teachers, we need to travel. Otherwise, we won't learn about interculturality. It's a must.
Okay, that's it, dear Professor Jaime. Thank you for your insightful presentation. I must say it was very interactive, and I love your workshop.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Steffi, Silvia, and Sergio. I love your presentation yesterday, Sergio. I just loved it. Thank you so much. And if anybody is interested, or I will send you, Steffi, I think I have Juana's telephone number, so I will send her the PPT, and you can share it with anyone who wants it.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dear Sergio, you can continue.
Thank you so much for this beautiful presentation. And one more reminder, to secure your certification, please complete the evaluation form at the end of this block.
Ok, bueno, vamos a pasar un poco al español y vamos a nuestra ponencia 8 del día, bueno, del Congreso, y es del Tolima a Bélgica, lenguas, multiculturalidad y sostenibilidad en el camino hacia la ciudadanía global. José Alirio Mendoza Mesa. La docente Dina Bonilla será la encargada de presentar y dinamizar las preguntas a la ponente. Bienvenidos.
Muy buenos días para todos. Es un placer para mí presentarles al doctor José Alirio Mendoza. Es químico tolimense con doctorado en ciencias y más de 15 años de experiencia en investigación y docencia, especializado en catálisis heterogénea, química analítica y tecnologías sostenibles. A lo largo de su trayectoria, ha trabajado en el diseño, desarrollo y validación de metodologías analíticas robustas, aplicando principios de metrología y aseguramiento de la calidad bajo normativas internacionales como ISO 170-25, gestión de la calidad. Esta experiencia le ha permitido liderar proyectos estratégicos en sectores académicos e industriales, incluyendo la acreditación de laboratorios y la capacitación de profesionales en buenas prácticas analíticas y en el control de la incertidumbre de la medida. Asimismo, proyectos de investigación en biorefinería. Actualmente desarrolla su investigación postdoctoral en la Universidad KU Leuven en Bélgica, donde se lidera un proyecto en el diseño y caracterización avanzada de catalizadores para procesos de valoración de CO2 y biorefinería. En este rol combina su experiencia en química del estado sólido con la construcción y optimización de reactores, integrando innovación, análisis técnico profundo y trabajo colaborativo con equipos multidisciplinarios. Doctor José Alirio, recuerde que tiene 30 minutos para realizar su ponencia y 10 minutos para responder las preguntas al público. Muchas gracias.
Para acceder a nuestras ofertas académicas, vamos a unad.edu.com a la sección Oferta académica, listado de escuelas. En esta sección deberás buscar Escuela de Ciencias de la Educación ECEDU. Clic y allí encontrarás los listados de toda la oferta académica de la escuela, donde podrás encontrar el programa de licenciatura en lenguas extranjeras con énfasis en inglés. Allí podrás ver los enlaces para matricularte, la simulación de costos y el plan de estudios, el cual se encuentra en nuestra página. Si ya eres estudiante, también puedes consultar tu progreso académico y la oferta académica correspondiente desde tu campus UNAD. Ingresa al portal, selecciona la opción Cursos virtuales y accede a tu plan de estudios individual. Aquí podrás revisar tu avance, identificar los cursos completados y los que te faltan por cursar. Además, encontrarás instrucciones detalladas sobre cómo interpretar tu plan de estudios individual. Es así de fácil. Recuerda que puedes matricularte en cualquiera de nuestros periodos académicos. Matricúlate ya. Te esperamos.
Bueno, ¿me confirman si me escuchan, por favor? Bueno, muy buenos días. Muchas gracias por la invitación. Me invitaron a esta charla. Es una charla desde una perspectiva muy personal. Yo tengo otras charlas de sostenibilidad, de química, de lo que hago en ciencia como químico, pero esta charla que preparé para el día de hoy en español es del Tolima a Bélgica, de lenguas, multiculturalidad y sostenibilidad en el camino hacia una ciudadanía global. Es una charla desde una perspectiva muy personal que quiero hacer con bastante humildad desde los orígenes de Ibagué, de donde soy, de la ciudad de Ibagué, Tolima, y contando un poquitico esa perspectiva de mi trayectoria en la ciencia y en lo que llevo haciendo como postdoc aquí en la Universidad de Leuven, contar un poquitico del choque cultural que he vivido una vez estando aquí en la Universidad de KU Leuven. Básicamente voy a hacer una breve introducción, voy a hablar un poquitico del Tolima, voy a hablar del proceso personal del aprendizaje de las lenguas extranjeras, de lo que yo considero como las dimensiones multiculturales y finalmente con unas lecciones aprendidas. Pero me gustaría empezar con el título. El título tiene una serie de componentes bien difíciles de abordar, ¿sí? Uno escucha esta charla y uno entiende que se va a hablar del Tolima, de Bélgica, de multiculturalidad, de sostenibilidad, de camino hacia la globalidad, y es un poco de todo, y con buscar cómo concatenar todas estas piezas de este rompecabezas para finalmente dejar un mensaje con ustedes. Entonces, vamos a empezar por el Tolima. Quiero contarles pues un poquitico de mí. Yo nací en Ibagué, Tolima. Hice mi primaria en un municipio del Tolima que se llama Honda. Finalmente hice mi secundaria en un colegio de Ibagué que se llama Intramunicipales. Hice toda mi trayectoria en el colegio Intramunicipales. Hice parte del SENA en el cual saqué un tecnólogo, y dentro de mis aspiraciones nunca estuvo presentarme en la Universidad Nacional de Colombia, pero pues cuando terminé mi tecnología del SENA, yo dije voy a intentar para ver qué pasa, y pues me fue bien, y pasé en la universidad a la carrera de química. Quiero resaltar que durante toda esta trayectoria estuve estudiando inglés ustedes saben, en la primaria, lo que uno ve en la primaria, en la secundaria. Cuando llegué a mi universidad, a pesar de haber tenido una trayectoria grande en la primaria y en la secundaria, yo recuerdo mi primer semestre en la universidad cuando tuve un artículo que era completamente escrito en inglés, y yo entré completamente en shock al ver este artículo en inglés. Y nuestro profesor eran 8 páginas en letra tamaño 8, y él nos dijo, tienen que leer en inglés porque el latín contemporáneo es el inglés, y ahora todo lo que se escribe en ciencia y la información importante es en inglés. Yo entré en shock, pasé la noche estudiando, traduciendo palabras por palabras. Y nuevamente lo digo, a pesar de que tuve excelentes profesoras de inglés, en la fotografía que están viendo ahí tengo a 2 de mis profesoras en Colombia, excelentes, muy buenas profesoras, pero de todos modos tenía un vocabulario grande, pero mis habilidades de pronunciación y de escritura no eran tan buenos. Entonces, ese fue más o menos la trayectoria. Hice mi doctorado en Colombia. Y luego me moví a Bélgica, y ahora les voy a contar qué es lo que estoy haciendo actualmente. Aquí en Bélgica trabajo en la Universidad de Lovaina, queda aquí localizada en el centro de Europa, en Bélgica, en un pueblito que se llama Leuven, que está pegado a Bruselas, que es la capital de Bélgica. Es un pueblito muy pequeño, imagínense que es como de Espinal a Ibagué, o Soacha a Bogotá. Es una proporción así más o menos. Este es el grupo de investigación en el que trabajo. Mi profesor es el profesor Miguel Dusselier, es un profesor bastante joven, y este es el grupo de investigación con el que yo trabajo. Como ustedes pueden ver, es un grupo que está compuesto con personas de diferentes nacionalidades. El centro de aquí son belgas, una chica de España, una chica de Tunisia, pues yo y mi hermano estamos haciendo un proyecto de software, un chico de Italia, una chica de Grecia, un chico del Líbano, 2 pakistanes, un sirio, 2 personas de China, un chico de la India. Estos chicos son de Irán, una chica de Corea del Sur. Es un ambiente multicultural, pero adicionalmente la ciudad en sí es una ciudad universitaria donde convergen muchos estudiantes, obviamente también de distintas nacionalidades y de distintas culturas. Entonces es un ambiente muy diverso, y que no solamente permite el desarrollo de las ciencias, que es lo que vine a hacer yo aquí, a trabajar en química, sino que también permite, en cierta manera, explorar toda esta diversidad cultural al poder interactuar con gente de diferentes países y de diferentes culturas. Aquí hay una foto un poco más humana del grupo, ahí estamos todo el grupo, acá estoy yo, en ese momento tenía el cabello largo. Esta es la familia Dusselier. ¿Qué hago yo? Yo trabajo en un proyecto de sostenibilidad. El dióxido de carbono es un problema industrial, porque el dióxido de carbono no permite que el calor se escape de la atmósfera. El proyecto de investigación el que yo hago parte es qué hacemos con ese dióxido de carbono, cómo lo cogemos, no es capturarlo de la atmósfera, sino cómo lo atrapamos en el foco industrial y desarrollar materiales que permitan hacer procesos más amigables y sostenibles para la industria del dióxido de carbono. Entonces, estos son el graphical abstract de algunos de mis papers. Básicamente, en este estoy tratando de demostrar que construyendo unos materiales estamos tratando de suplir una brecha que hay en la producción de propileno, que es un plástico importante, incorporando el dióxido de carbono en la producción. Y este es uno de los graphical abstract que más me gusta. El graphical abstract es ustedes sabrán, es el resumen del paper cuando tú estás trabajando. Este es uno de los que más me gusta porque aquí tú traté de darle un poquitico de mi corazón musical, y lo que hice fue proponer una forma para representar las reacciones químicas muy parecidas al pentagrama, y este fue publicado, es mi última publicación, pues la más reciente que tenemos en el grupo de investigación. Entonces, eso es lo que les quería contar. Ya hablamos del Tolima, ya hablamos de sostenibilidad, y quiero llamarles la atención que trabajo entonces en un tema que es en el campo de la sostenibilidad para mejorar el ambiente, para mejorar la humanidad y luchar toda esta parte como romántica y utópica de lo que es la investigación. Ahora un poquitico, bueno, acá hay un poquitico de Spanglish porque siempre ya dice Lenguas Process, pero debería ser Language Process. Me disculpo por el error tipográfico. Como lo dije, mi inglés en la escuela y en la premundaria, no porque haya tenido malas profesoras, sino porque para mí personalmente existe una barrera más allá de practicar. En la universidad mi puntaje en inglés, yo he sido muy bueno en matemáticas, en químicas, en las ciencias se me ha ido bastante bien, pero en idiomas ha sido un proceso extremadamente difícil. Mi puntaje siempre ha sido muy bajo. Yo era el estudiante 3.49999, que iba a hablar con el profesor para que me regalara esa décima para llegar al 3.5. Tuve la oportunidad de hacer una instancia en Manchester, donde, con el mayor respeto de las instituciones que hay para aprender inglés en Manchester, lo que yo sentí que más me sirvió fue el poder hablar día a día con la señora que me atendía y con la que pues logramos, nos sentábamos a hablar de las noticias, de todo, porque hice una host family. Entonces eso yo creo que me desbloqueó un poquitico yo digo que hay una barrera, esa pared de saltar a hablar y a cometer errores y a cometer lenguaje, mispronunciation, todo este tipo de cosas, porque creo que, esa diapositiva está llena de memes, porque esa parte del colombiano, de nosotros, de criticarnos por medio de la broma, de la pronunciación y todo eso, creo que es una barrera que hay que cambiar completamente. Creo que es una barrera para aprender. Ahorita cuando hablé de la Universidad de Cabo Luben, les quiero contar que de Colombia a las ofertas que hay aquí en Cabo Luben son de los que menos se presentan, y yo creo que la mayor barrera que hay es el idioma, porque el colombiano teme no tener las habilidades suficientes de ir y de lanzarse con su mal inglés, con su buen inglés, de ir a pelear por una beca para una carrera. Actualmente finalizo aquí con mi proceso de aprendizaje. Como ya lo vengo diciendo, estoy viviendo en Bélgica hace 4 años, y no solamente yo, sino con mi familia. Mi hijo actualmente él habla holandés, habla inglés y está empezando a hablar francés. Entonces, mi hija lo mismo, ellos ya están hablando los 3 idiomas, digamos que en unas proporciones más que todo inglés, porque es eso. Pero no solamente he vivido ese proceso de aprendizaje, mi proceso individual, sino que también he podido ver ese proceso de ellos aquí en una inmersión cultural, y creo que ha sido bastante fructífero, y eso es lo que voy a ir presentando en la presentación. Entonces, aquí tengo este otro meme. Being bilingual means slowly forgetting your first language and still mispronunciate everything of the second one. En cierta manera uno empieza a sacrificar parte de su cultura en este momento de que uno se mueve, y ser un inmigrante también en el exterior implica que con el tiempo tu cultura se va a ir diluyendo a medida que las generaciones que van siguiendo en el otro país se van olvidando de esas raíces. Entonces también es un poco de sacrificio de esa cultura interna. Y cuando uno dice por recocha que se le está olvidando el español, hay veces ya con tanto tiempo están inmersos en el idioma, uno empieza a tener problemas, errores ortográficos, porque tiene mezclados los idiomas, y es una realidad. Es un poco sacrificar un poco del nacionalismo su identidad, en cierta manera, aunque es cuando uno está en exterior, es cuando uno más colombiano se vuelve, y de eso es que quiero hablar en nuestra siguiente diapositiva. Raíces tolimenses, el nacionalismo colombiano. Tenemos el país más hermoso del mundo. ¿Cómo no amar a Colombia si es el único país que le pinta los colores en el cielo? El tamal, mi delicioso tamal, que lo adoro, la lechona, el pescador, el bambuco, las fiestas de San Pedro y de San Juan, el aguardiente Tolima. Y yo siento que esta identidad es bien importante para reconocernos nosotros mismos, pero también siento que, y lo digo con el mayor respeto de todos nosotros, en cierto punto llega a ser un poco tóxico la forma que, no sé por qué está tan interiorizado en nuestra cultura, ese resaltar lo bello ya demasiado, que en cierto momento hace que perdamos la objetividad. He tenido muchos, siempre traigo mi aguardiente y he tenido un par de anécdotas con el aguardiente porque es un trago que no gusta. Finalmente si ustedes van a la complejidad de la preparación del aguardiente, es básicamente alcohol, agua y anís. Y cuando uno ya llega a compartir eso con otras personas, uno tiene que estar abierto a que le digan pues que no es un trago muy bueno. Entonces uno dice, no, pero es que mi aguardiente es el aguardiente de mi tierra, ¿cómo me decís eso? Y sobre todo el colombiano que somos, tenemos un nacionalismo súper fuerte. Entonces yo creo que abrirse a esas es un poquitico también reconocer hasta qué punto el nacionalismo llega a ser un poco tóxico y identificar de manera racional y humilde cuando uno tenga que reconocer otras cosas sobre y lo que pueda implicar esto en el momento de decisiones. Ahora vamos a mover a Bélgica. Entonces el Tolima, como la charla se llama el Tolima Bélgica, hice la proporción en área del Tolima a Bélgica y el área del Tolima más medio Tolima es igual al área de Bélgica. Es un país extremadamente pequeño, pero en el Tolima, este es un dato de ChatGPT, hay 45 habitantes por kilómetro cuadrado, mientras que en Bélgica hay 400 habitantes por kilómetro cuadrado. De pronto está un poquitico errado el dato, pero más o menos yo creo que no está tan errado con respecto a otro. Y eso me lleva a preguntar, Bélgica tiene una calidad de vida muy tremenda, el grado de ciudadanía, el grado de civismo, que si uno lo compara directamente con mi departamento, pues no es así, ¿no? Con el tráfico, con las cosas, cómo resolvemos los problemas, cómo abordamos el sexualismo, la percepción que tenemos de la mujer desde el Tolima. Entonces, cierto cierto que sí hay como una brecha, y no es una brecha simplemente, es una brecha de tiempo como sociedad, de tiempo formándose como sociedad. Bélgica es una sociedad mucho más antigua, tiene mucho más tiempo de construir sus reglas sociales y sus patrones de comportamientos comparados con general en Colombia, que somos una sociedad mucho más nueva. Entonces, ahí traigo este ejemplo que se llama El gringo viene a casa. Y quiero llamar esa connotación del gringo. El gringo es, hay dos teorías, dice que el gringo viene de la palabra hablar en griego, y entonces poco a poco se le fuimos adaptando al extranjero. Entonces para el colombiano casi siempre le decimos al gringo, griego evolucionó a gringo. Hay otra teoría mucho más popular y es de una guerra que hubo entre México y Estados Unidos, y que ellos tenían un uniforme verde y le decían green por su uniforme, go home. Y entonces estas dos teorías evolucionaron a esa palabra gringo, pero es muy chistosa esa palabra gringo porque en general cuando hay un extranjero en Colombia la mayoría de la población lo llama gringo sin importar si viene de América o si viene de Europa, es más un concepto de extranjero. Y ahí quiero llamar a colación uno de mis cuentos favoritos de Gabriel García Márquez, que es el abogado más hermoso del mundo. Por favor, interrúmpame cuando me falten los 10 minutos para yo acelerar, porque como tenía la presentación abierta, no perdí el control del tiempo en mi presentación. El abogado más hermoso del mundo, que es una exaltación a cómo con nuestras culturas indígenas, a la llegada de los europeos a través de ese realismo mágico de Gabriel García Márquez, él dice cómo esa llegada del extranjero dio multiculturalidad y trajo muchas más cosas, aunque también podríamos pensarlo al contrario, ¿no? Podríamos decir que esa llegada del extranjero despertó una serie de resentimientos frente a un hombre que era más evolucionado, ¿no? Este cuento, que si no lo han leído, lo invito a leérselo, puede interpretarse de diferentes maneras, pero es ese miedo hacia el extranjero. Y ahí ya quiero decirlo nuevamente, retomando mis orígenes humildes del Tolima. Recuerdo que la primera vez que tuve contacto con un europeo fue cuando ya tenía por ahí unos 17 años, que vino el esposo de una prima que era irlandés y todo el mundo lo llamaba gringo. Sí, siento que hay como una brecha, es ese estereotipo que tenemos hacia la mirada de lo extranjero, y en cierta manera hay veces siento que hay un poco como de una pared, esa es la pared que tenemos que romper contra eso. Ahora voy a hablar de Bélgica, ya les he hablado del Tolima, voy a hablar de Bélgica. Bélgica es un país maravilloso, es un país conocido por las papas fritas, porque ellos se atribuyen la invención de las papas fritas en lugar de las papas francesas. Hay 200 marcas de cervezas conocidas, pero en realidad hay alrededor de 1.200 clases de cervezas, porque hay muchas cervecerías clandestinas no, no sé cómo decirlo, como hechas en casa. Son conocidos por los waffles, son los inventores de los pitufos, son los inventores, son muy famosos por los cómics. Han adelantado, por ejemplo, Tintín es creación de ellos, el saxofón fue creado aquí, esas son las cosas más regionalistas de eso. Pero algo que me llama la atención de Bélgica es que no tienen ese ferviente nacionalismo que, como mencioné cuando pasé por el Tolima, no lo tienen, ¿no? Acá también se pinta la bandera en el cielo, porque acá se puede ver el rojo y el amarillo, pero pues nadie va a estar ahí por ahí orgulloso, gritando que es el único país que se le pinta la color en el color del cielo. Y creo que esa manera racional de abordar nuestros países y las cosas que tenemos también nos permite valorar las cosas de las otras culturas de una manera mucho más respetuosa y mucho más abierta, que hay veces con esos nacionalismos tan aferrados no es. En Bélgica no se habla inglés, no es el primer idioma de Bélgica. Bélgica, la parte del sur de Bélgica hablan francés, y la parte del norte de Bélgica hablan holandés, y una pequeña porción de Bélgica habla alemán. Esos son los 3 idiomas oficiales aquí en Bélgica, pero en la mayoría de las ciudades donde hay universidades internacionales, todo el mundo habla inglés. Tú vas, ahorita estoy estudiando holandés, yo pues para seguir con el proceso, igual que con el inglés terrible, el peor en pronunciación y en todo, pero ahí lo que sí soy es que soy una persona muy perseverante, entonces ahí sigo en la batalla con mi idioma. Entonces, Bélgica es un país donde no se habla inglés, entonces todos aquí no son native speakers en inglés, ¿cierto? Entonces, eso permite un ambiente que no tiene ese señalamiento. Tú vas por la calle y tú puedes pronunciar, aquí la gente pronuncia inglés en mala forma, como lo importante del proceso aquí es que la gente se comunique. Es mi humilde percepción, especialmente en Kauluben, en otro pueblo que se llama Gen, en donde hay unas universidades grandes y está toda esta multiculturalidad. Entonces, eso permite, por ejemplo, para mi familia, que tuvieron ese proceso, ellos no venían hablando inglés, y entonces tuvieron la oportunidad de aprender inglés en un país que no es native speaker, pero la gente cambia inglés con una facilidad y no hay un señalamiento por tu mala pronunciación, sino que simplemente tú lo dices y ellos encuentran la forma de cumplir el objetivo final, que es la comunicación. Habiendo dicho esto, quiero retomar nuevamente lo que son las ciudadanías globales y nuevamente llamar a hacer un llamado hacia el nacionalismo. Y, por ejemplo, el enfoque que tuvo Albert Einstein frente al nacionalismo, y nosotros como colombianos, ¿cómo vemos ese nacionalismo que tenemos por nosotros? ¿Hasta qué punto seguir siendo alabanciosos no nos permite evaluar de manera objetiva la cultura de otros países, lo que tenemos nosotros mismos, y hasta qué punto tenemos que empezar a pensar de una manera un poco menos nacionalista? Y si ustedes se dan cuenta, los movimientos nacionalistas fueron los responsables de la Primera y de la Segunda Guerra Mundial, con todas las catástrofes que esto tuvo para la humanidad, ¿no? Entonces, parte de esa ciudadanía global es conducir a países que mantengan su identidad, que se sientan orgullosos de sus identidades, pero que estén dispuestos a reconocer cuando no a mirar de una manera objetiva su país, sin exaltaciones ni sobrevaloraciones, y de esta manera nos vamos a poder abrir al mundo de una manera mejor, ¿no? No es que tenemos la mejor comida del mundo, es que, no, yo pienso que estamos ante un momento en el que si vamos a hablar de ciudadanías globales, el primer paso es movernos hacia la apertura de la humildad desde la nación, desde la identidad, pero siendo racionales y objetivos con nuestras apreciaciones. Kaoluben es, en español se llama lobaina, yo les decía que es proporcional como a Espinal a Ibagué, Bruselas es la capital de Bélgica y aquí es donde estoy localizado, esa es la universidad. Hay una cosa que me parece muy triste de estar aquí en la universidad y es que en las convocatorias que hacen de doctorado, aquí el doctorado es un trabajo. Sí, aquí la Universidad Colombia tiene un sistema de doctorados muy pésimo que se llaman préstamos becas y en esos pues te dan a ti un préstamo que tú tienes que sacar adelante por medio de el sistema educativo. No, aquí el estudiante de doctorado, los que hacen investigación, eso es constituido como un trabajo y digamos que todavía son como una zona gris porque de todos modos se les dicen estudiantes, pero hacer un doctorado oficialmente es un trabajo, tienen salud, tienen pensiones, está más del lado del trabajador. Siguen siendo estudiantes, pero está más del lado del trabajador. ¿Y qué más quería decir? Ya casi voy a terminar. Obviamente, romper estereotipos. Tenemos un problema gravísimo. Hay una mispercepción, una malpercepción de muchas culturas gracias a las películas. No tenemos el problema nosotros, que nosotros nos quejamos de Pablo Escobar, pero tenemos unas percepciones de las otras culturas también con unos estereotipos bastante sesgados. Por ejemplo, si ustedes se ven en esta película de 300, el rey persa que aparece ahí, que se me olvida el nombre ahorita, pero ese rey persa es un detrimento de los reyes persas, como lo mostraron, como lo representan en el cine, y muchas veces se queda uno con esos estereotipos y esto, cuando uno conoce el mundo a través, me ha pasado a mí muchas veces, lo digo porque lo he vivido, que uno tiene estos estereotipos construidos por las películas, por lo que tenemos para alimentarnos de ellos. Uno tiene que venir dispuesto a pensar que esos estereotipos son falsos. Obviamente que hay algo de verdad en la construcción de un estereotipo, pero uno no puede generalizar, porque es la única manera que podemos llegar a conocer en verdad a las personas que hay detrás de esa cultura diferente. Hay unas cosas irreconciliables entre culturas que son muy difíciles de entender y que son muy difíciles de llegar a acuerdos. Por ejemplo, este tema del hijab. Sí, yo he tenido la oportunidad de hablar con grandes amigos que tengo de la cultura musulmana y yo sigo sin entenderlo, pero también cuando yo cojo una canción colombiana que para mí siempre ha sido bonita y les traduzco la letra y yo me digo, oiga, pero esta canción tiene, tiene harta carga sexista, ¿sí? Tiene una carga sexista tremenda y uno a veces no se da cuenta de esas cosas. Es muy bonita, es un vallenato espectacular, lo que sea, pero cuando uno se la traduce, de pronto uno se dice, usted está diciendo que la letra está diciendo esto y dice, uy, sí, no me he dado cuenta, ¿no? Entonces, es esa parte. Ciudadanía global requiere una empatía frente a la geopolítica. Indudablemente, el inglés me ha abierto esta posibilidad, pero también ha abierto a otros idiomas. Pero para mí es terrible trabajar en dióxido de carbono, valorización de dióxido de carbono, vamos a salvar el mundo. Ustedes saben la cantidad de dióxido de carbono que se genera, no voy a hablar de las vidas, la cantidad de dióxido de carbono que se genera construyendo un edificio. Entonces yo estoy mirando ahí que vamos a hacer una investigación para la sostenibilidad, para encaminar el mundo hacia un lugar de mejor, y luego cogen un edificio y lo destruyen con una bomba que también genera dióxido de carbono. No estoy hablando de las vidas ni siquiera, que eso es mucho más importante todavía. Entonces, parte de la construcción de esas ciudadanías globales y de abrirse al mundo, al entendimiento de esas culturas, es tener esa empatía frente a la geopolítica, que no, para mí es terrible que después de la Primera y de la Segunda Guerra Mundial es plenamente inconcebible que la humanidad todavía siga enfrentando unos conflictos internacionales que son para no creer. en este mundo. No voy a hablar obviamente de mis posiciones políticas, estoy tratando de abordar el tema de la manera más académica posible, pero definitivamente cualquier camino que conduzca a la destrucción o a la matanza o a la pérdida de la vida es algo que debería ser rechazado por cualquier mecanismo. Entonces, básicamente, eso fue lo que preparé para ustedes. Mi conclusión nuevamente, los lenguajes, no solamente el inglés, son el mecanismo para abrirse a las culturas, como lo decía el profesor anterior, viajar, yo creo que debería promoverse políticas para que en Colombia cada ciudadano logre salir al exterior, para que sea parte de su formación en el bachillerato, que puedan tener otras perspectivas de otras culturas, de otras sociedades. Yo sé que es un poco ambicioso, pero hay personas en Colombia que ni siquiera conocen la costa y es muy triste, ¿no? Ni siquiera conocemos adentro de nuestro país y es muy triste que no podamos ofrecerle a nuestros niños una sociedad que les permita una formación cultural, multicultural, empática y con todas estas... eso fue lo que preparé para la presentación. No sé si quieran abrir el panel para preguntas. No sé cómo estuve esto tampoco.
Sí, señor. Muchísimas gracias, doctor José Alirio, por su ponencia, por la manera como integró la multiculturalidad con esa visión global, sin perder de vista pues, el orgullo y las riquezas de nuestras identidades nacionales. Por supuesto que tenemos acá preguntas. La primera pregunta sería, ¿qué políticas se han implementado para promover la integración de las diversas comunidades lingüísticas en Bélgica?
Bueno, la pregunta está muy buena. Voy a decir primero dos cosas. Bélgica tiene un programa de integración para los extranjeros muy fuerte. Cuando uno llega acá se llama el proceso de inburgering y en ese proceso al extranjero le explican cómo funciona la sociedad belga. Estoy hablando, yo sé que es de las comunidades lingüísticas, pero voy a tomarme un tiempo que me recordó algo que olvidé mencionar. Entonces, se evitan que el extranjero y le dan a uno un certificado de que te has integrado a la sociedad, donde le explican cómo se aborda la sexualidad, cómo es el tema frente al aborto, bueno, unos cursos bastante valiosos que yo creo que deberían ser unas políticas. Los temas lingüísticos es un problema, yo creo que también eso ha afectado a cómo se perciben ellos nacionalmente, porque básicamente ellos pertenecían a la región de Benelux, que es Bélgica, Netherlands, que es Holanda y Luxemburgo. Esa es toda la región de los Países Bajos. Después de las guerras napoleónicas, ellos dijeron, no tenemos que dejar que esto vuelva a pasar, porque Napoleón, el imperio de Napoleón tomó toda esta parte y ellos, digamos que no hay una integración total de esas comunidades lingüísticas y hay muchas rencillas porque el lenguaje supone unas barreras de todos modos culturales. Tú llegas y pasas a la región Bolonia, que es la francesa, y tú sientes como culturalmente son distintos. Han tenido varias veces movimientos para independizar las regiones boloñesa de la región flamenca es de la región holandesa, pero no lo han logrado y finalmente Bélgica se ha mantenido como un país unido, además de esas barreras lingüísticas. Bruselas habla, el 80% de la población habla francés y el 20% habla holandés. Y en las otras comunidades se habla al contrario, ¿no? En la región flamenca sí se preocupa más por aprender el francés y eso también es tema de debate interno dentro del país. La región alemana es solamente un pueblito que quedó después de la Segunda Guerra Mundial, que se ha conservado y han conservado su identidad. Es una población muy pequeñita. Pero sí, eso supone una serie de retos bien interesantes, pero también le da una exquisitez al país que es tremenda.
Muchísimas gracias. Hay bastantes comentarios muy positivos sobre su ponencia y sobre todo que fue muy significativo que motiva a los estudiantes a hacer esas instancias en otros países para poder pues aprender de otras culturas. Tenemos otra pregunta, doctor José Alirio. ¿Qué estrategias o prácticas cree usted que son esenciales para cuestionar y eliminar estereotipos sociales o culturales?
Si quieres, empecemos por decirme José Alirio. El título lo dejamos, listo. Yo creo que ese es el primero, ¿no? Dejar pensar que los títulos aquí dejar pensar que los títulos, que el manejo de esos poderes y el manejo de esas cosas que tenemos tan interiorizados allá en Colombia, yo creo que lo que tenemos que aprender es administrar el poder. Nosotros como sociedad necesitamos una educación que vaya más orientada a manejar el poder. ¿Cuáles son esos poderes? Cuando alguien tiene más dinero, eso es una forma de poder. Cuando hay un profesor que hace una mala práctica con su estudiante, es una forma de poder. O hay muchas formas de romper esos estereotipos y de romper esas barreras, no solamente culturales, sino sociales, y promover la empatía. Yo creo que siempre tenemos que ponernos en los zapatos de con quien estamos hablando y de esa manera podría ser una manera de afectarlo. No sé si respondí la pregunta.
Sí, señor. Y nuestra última pregunta, según su experiencia, ¿cree que el aprendizaje de un idioma debe priorizarse la comunicación efectiva sobre la perfección lingüística?
Total, completamente de acuerdo. Yo creo que cuando yo estaba en Colombia haciendo mi doctorado, yo propuse en mi grupo de investigación que hiciéramos charlas en inglés y las personas dijeron, no, ¿por qué? Porque siempre estamos temerosos de hacerlo bien, de no cometer errores, estamos expuestos al meme, a la burla, es parte de nuestra cultura, porque nosotros somos muy, el colombiano, nosotros somos muy a hacer bromas, a la jocosidad, ¿sí? Pero eso afecta el proceso, el perfeccionismo afecta el proceso de aprendizaje porque el proceso de aprendizaje tiene que ser humilde. Tú tienes que reconocer que estás aprendiendo. Aquí había un amigo italiano que estaba aprendiendo español y él venía a mi casa a compartir con nosotros y cuando él comenzaba a hablar en español, pues nos reíamos. Y él se quedaba mirando y me decía, pero ¿por qué se ríen de mi pronunciación en español si yo estoy aprendiendo? ¿Sí? Entonces, eso pasa mucho en nuestros... Y tendría que decir también que no quiero hablar de ningún país, pero yo he estado en entrevistas para que pasen aquí a la universidad de otros países cuya pronunciación no ha sido el elemento decisivo para darle el trabajo. Cuando hacemos las entrevistas, aquí yo hago entrevistas a ingenieros y a químicos, tratamos de buscar primero el humano que hay detrás de esa mala pronunciación y segundo, las habilidades profesionales. Pero siempre, y yo creo que eso ha sido mucho de lo que ha hecho mi jefe, no permitir que el idioma sea la barrera que excluya a un buen profesional o a un buen ser humano de hacer parte del grupo de investigación.
Muchísimas gracias. José Lirio, pues tenemos otra preguntita, estamos bien de tiempo, entonces nos gustaría conocer cuál ha sido su experiencia más significativa con la multiculturalidad durante su estancia en Bélgica.
Yo creo que el hijab de las mujeres, nunca lo he podido entender. Yo me precio de hacerme amigo de muchas personas de diferentes países. He comido hot pot, he comido curry con indios. A mí me gusta, yo voy y hablo, pero a mí no me gusta mirarlos desde lejos. A mí me gusta hacer preguntas incómodas, a mí me gusta hablar de religión, obviamente dentro del marco del respeto, pero yo creo que solamente se llega a... Entonces, me documenté sobre el hijab, sobre lo que representa en la cultura musulmana, pero no lo he podido entender. Por ejemplo, desde nuestra percepción occidental, uno piensa que si uno pone esa regla y uno va a un país y dice, no, ya todo el mundo se va a quitar el hijab. Y muchas mujeres van a protestar porque te estás metiendo con su identidad de ellas, no las estás liberando, se adaptan a la realidad que se presentan y es algo que yo nunca he podido reconciliar ni finalmente terminar de entender. Igual lo respeto muchísimo, pero es algo que me lleva a pensar que hay unas cosas irreconciliables como culturas, pero que las señalamos de Occidente, pero que no terminamos de entender en otros lados.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, José Lirio, por tremenda experiencia. Y continuamos con nuestra siguiente ponencia. Muchas gracias. Fue muy valioso conocer toda esa experiencia
Bueno, un
desde ese
placer.
punto tan crítico. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, que esté muy bien. Hasta luego.
Muchas gracias a nuestro ponente y a nuestra dinamizadora. Recuerden, estimados estudiantes, que si ustedes están interesados en certificarse en este evento, deben completar el formulario de evaluación una vez termine el bloque.
Muchísimas gracias a nuestros ponentes por tan entretenida y significativa presentación. Vamos a continuar con la ponencia número 9, Linguistic Interchange. You learn English and I teach you with Toto. Tatiana Herrera Guzmán, Carol Lisette Sánchez Escobar, Juliet Andrea Zapata Ortiz y Julián David Mejía Vargas van a hacer su presentación. El docente John Jader Núñez del semillero EduPel será el encargado de presentar y dinamizar las preguntas a los ponentes.
Good morning, everyone. For me, it's an honor to introduce you to Carol Lisette Sánchez Escobar, 8th semester student of the bachelor's degree in foreign languages with an emphasis in English at Universidad de la Amazonía. She has completed Teaching Practicum 1 and is currently undertaking Teaching Practicum 2, gaining experience in English language teaching in school contexts. She participated as an assistant at the International EFL Teachers Congress 2024. Her academic interests focus on teaching English as a foreign language in indigenous communities, especially through the creation of contextualized materials. Currently, her thesis project is aimed at the development of a bilingual workbook, English with Toto, designed to strengthen teaching and learning processes within the Witoto community. Her institutional affiliation is Universidad de la Amazonía. Tatiana Herrera Guzmán, 7th semester student of the bachelor's degree in foreign languages with an emphasis in English at Universidad de la Amazonía. She's currently doing her teaching practicum in a public school and also works at the Universal People Academy in Florencia, Caquetá, as an administrative and customer service assistant. Likewise, she teaches English classes to children between 3 and 11 years old and manages filing processes within the institution. Her academic interests focus on teaching English as a foreign language in indigenous communities, especially through the creation of contextualized materials. Her thesis project is aimed at the development of a bilingual workbook, English with Toto, designed to strengthen teaching and learning processes within the Witoto community. Juliet Andrea Zapata Ortiz, biologist with an emphasis on bioresources, a specialist in biology teaching and master in education, researcher in the fields of genetics of Amazonian plants and neotropical amphibians. She has experience conducting research with indigenous communities in the Amazon region on topics such as linguistics and the didactics of indigenous languages. She's currently a biology professor at Universidad de la Amazonía. Julián David Mejía Vargas, Bachelor in Humanities and Languages, a specialist in university teaching, a specialist in biology education, and master in education. Professor of Applied Linguistics and English Literature in the bachelor's degree program in foreign languages with an emphasis in English at Universidad de la Amazonía. His research interests include decoloniality, literature didactics, applied linguistics, gamification, intercultural studies, literary creation, and artificial intelligence. He is the director of the Identities Research Group. Speakers, remember that you have 30 minutes to make your presentation and 10 minutes to answer questions from the audience. Throughout the presentation, the audience will find a link to make the questions in the YouTube chat. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear us and can you see the slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay, let me check. There you go. Well, thank you, Junhaer. It's nice to see you again. And we are very proud and happy to be with all of you, people from Colombia, and I know there are people from other countries too. And we as a group are going to present you this presentation. We live here in Florencia, in Caquetá, and all of us study and work in Universidad de la Amazonia. Let's start. We have a lot of indigenous languages in Colombia. And we have a lot of indigenous languages in all the continent. Specifically in the Amazon region, it has a lot of families of indigenous languages. And we are proud of that. We are very happy to have such large diversity. But unfortunately, we don't know a lot from those indigenous communities, and we don't speak those languages. In the university, we have students from around 8 different indigenous communities. They study here in Florencia, and just a few study English. But currently, we have in Florencia and in different municipalities of Caquetá, we have Ingas, Nasa, Coreguajes, Huitoto, Andoques, Ticunas, Macaguajes, and Verachami, among others. And we want to show in this presentation specifically the work we have done with Coreguajes and Huitoto. So in this map, we can see those lines in orange, green, blue, and black. They represent people that traveled from different parts of the Amazon region, and they arrived here to Florencia. Those people, we made interviews to them, we spoke with them, and we developed a booklet to learn Huitoto and learn Coreguaje. They come mainly from Araraquara, La Chorrera, Puerto Belín, Cuemaní, Los Monos, and Solano. More than just subjects of the study, they are our friends because we have shared a lot of time together, and we have a good relationship. We are friends with them. On this presentation, we developed the Huitoto booklet with this community. As you can see, we have malocas. They are communitary big houses, large houses where the indigenous live. All of these are from here, from Caquetá. Professora Marta Gomez, she lives in Solano, but we have visited her several times in Solano to ask her about words in Huitoto. She's fluent in around 3 or 4 languages. And Troncal del Hacha, Maloca Muy Domini, we have there, that is a dance, it's Yadico dance. They were performing that traditional dance last year, and we were invited to that dance. Down there we have Maloca Hipico Nuanánico, que es la Maloca del Manantial. It's very near from the University of Amazonas, de la Amazonia. And we have Maloca Murimuna and Luceli Kireteke, she belongs to another group of Muina Minica language. What did we do? On these slides, we are going to show you, that mainly we focus on 2 dialects from Huitoto. With Emilio, he speaks Nipode, and Lucely, she speaks Minica. Both of them talks Huitoto, but they have different accent. They change the pronunciation of some consonants, of some vowels. So we consider to make 1 book for Minica and 1 book for Nipode. Now I'm going to explain the first 7 steps of this ladder, and our partners, they are going to present how they are going to make that English and Huitoto interchange, and that we are doing right now. So let's start with the number 1. What did we do here? We we saw on the UNESCO some factors for language vitality. We know maybe we consider that because they are indigenous communities, they all talk fluently their native language, but no, because they come from different parts of the Amazon region and they have been living in Florencia for a long time. So their son and their grandson, sometimes they lose their native language proficiency, if we can say that. And here we have 6 different items where we can check if the language that is spoken in that community is good, is strong, or they need reinforcement or maybe to revitalize those languages. What did we do? First, we developed these kind of rubrics to determine the degree of endangerment of their language. And we saw that most of people that talk Huitoto here in Florencia, they are critically endangered because it's only used by a few speakers and mainly by the grandparents generation. So Emilio speaks Huitoto, but their daughters and sons, they don't do it fluently, and so on, they don't do it. It's only Emilio who is the cacique. So we consider that Huitoto here in Florencia is critically endangered. Next, we did a diagnosis of the teaching materials that they have at schools and at their houses. And we saw most of them are very old. We have one from 1983 that is the typical Huitoto Murui Diccionario. And we have other primers from different universities, but they are kind of old and they are focused not in the Nipode language, but other languages from other dialects from Huitoto. So what did we do? After that, we had the diagnosis of the vitality of the language. We developed a series of interviews. Those interviews helped us to understand how they felt regarding their own language and their own culture. And we saw very difficult struggles from them because the migration from their native town to Florencia changed everything. They lost their houses, their family, their properties, and they are slowly losing also the fluency on their language. But anyway, they preserve their culture and they feel very identified. Maybe in the future we are going to show the results of this interview because we made a lot of interviews in different resguardos from Caqueta, but that is part of another lecture. Part of the latter is to understand how we are going to create a book that help that community in particular to strengthen their native language. So we developed a survey or an interview to translate 207 words that belong to the Morris Walsh list because they are like the 207 more used words in any language in the world. So we made a list and we asked every cacique or every mayora what is the translation for those words in order to develop a very simple primer that we are going to show you later. This Morris Walsh list can be adapted to any indigenous language from Colombia or the world. And they have a very strong consistency to develop the most important words that are like the basis or the structure for the fluency in their native languages. As you can see here, we made a linguistics comparison between different languages. As you can see there, we have Muinane, that is not dialect of Huitoto, but we asked a lot of people about how can we translate pequeño into Minica, Nipode, Murui, and Bue. And we started to develop this list with all the 207 words, and it was very hard because sometimes in one Maloca, they had a word for that word in Spanish, they had an unknown word. And in the other Maloca, they said another word. So it took us around 2 years to complete the 207 words or the cognates, but it was worth. And we have a lot of information that we need to continue exploring. How was the process? We went to their malocas with the list. They wrote with their own hands the meaning of the words. And then in Universidad de la Amazonia, we recorded their voice pronouncing the words because we wanted to conserve the pronunciation for future generations and also for learning better that language. And at the end, we designed and printed those booklets. We're going to show you those booklets later. This is like the hardest part, the translation. This is a fragment of a song based on Ficido, that is in Minica, but in Nipode it's pitido. Pitido. As you can see, all of those elements are just on the beginning part, on the first section. We want to make the translation of more songs. We want to make the translation of more short stories. And in the future, we want to maybe make a CD, or well, we don't use CD anymore. Maybe an USB or a digital booklet where people can download the song and they can understand how to pronounce that language based on the pronunciation of the words. This is mainly in Spanish. As you can see, el colibrí es un pájaro hermoso. Well, Titi de Nuera y Goya is that plus is a symbol that we don't have in Spanish or in English, and it's a guttural most of those vowels are very nasal. Maybe in other presentation, we're going to explain more details about the linguistical part and phonetic part. But so far, we're going to explain now how was the illustration. Those illustrations that you see there, they were not made with artificial intelligence. They were made with by a friend of us, that she's a designer, and she started to paint every single drawing over there, trying to adapt the intention of the sentence and to retrieve the most significant elements from their culture and from their identity. This was like 1 year doing this, adjusting the words, making the translations. When we finished an example of the final booklet, we went to the cacique and they said, no, this is not good. You have to change this. So we have to change many times. And after the final version of this booklet, we are continuing doing those changes. And it's a normal element. We have to do it because it's an oral language. So we have to continue waiting, being patient, and making the changes that we need. Okay, and we have a lot of images, a lot of elements, and as you can see there, you have 207 words, and down below we have the sentence in that language. This one is in Coreguaje, but we developed 5 different booklets. After creating the final version, we printed a final version. As you can see, we binded it, and you can see over there all the indigenous communities that helped us, and also people from Universidad de la Amazonia. We have Coreguajes and Huitoto over there, and it's a very nice event. You can visit any other community of them, and they will gladly receive you if you want maybe to make another research with these indigenous communities. You can do it because they need a lot of help. And regarding the languages teaching, we need more support here in Universidad de la Amazonia. So if you want maybe in the future, join us, we can make a future research with them. Finally, with Universidad del Tolima, we sent them the final booklets. They printed it in a very nice material, and we went to different malocas to deliver their own books. They started to check, hey, you have a problem here, and we said, it's okay, no problem. We have to make those corrections, and in the future, you're going to have a new one. And this is the Lengua Nipode de la comunidad Huitoto that we are going to work with Emilio. He helped us with a lot of his valuable time to develop this booklet. And later, we went to different schools in Solano, in Florencia, and different parts of Caquetá to give those booklets to the libraries of those schools, because we know they have indigenous communities and kids that maybe they feel afraid of talking their own language. But when they started to see, hey, this booklet is based on my language or the language that my father speaks, and they started to like make another process of adapting and saying, hey, this is important. I'm going to learn my language because it's my identity. And that is also another research that we have to do. Now, before I give the words to our partners, that we are a team, I'm going to present this final slide, and I will leave with the rest of the team. Here in Universidad de la Amazonia, we have licenciatura en lenguas extranjeras con énfasis en inglés. And during the last 10 years, we have developed around 6 research documents on the creation of contextualized materials. Mainly, we started with John Bolivar. He is currently in United States as a teacher. But anyway, he was like the first one who decided to work with indigenous communities. And then we have Saulo Bolaños. He's a Coreguaje, former student from Universidad de la Amazonia. Now he's a teacher in Milan, in an indigenous community. And with both of them, we developed like the first guidelines for intercultural research based on the design of material for teaching Huitoto and Coreguaje. And we have worked also with Inga language. Profesora Silvia, she is a teacher from our licenciatura, and she directed the thesis from Judy and Gabriela. It was a virtual platform with Inga language. And Diana and Ricardo, they did it with Embera Chami. Alejandra Tizoy, she is a former student also from the licenciatura. She is an indigenous woman, and she developed a blog for reading comprehension. And now let's see how is going to be the transaction. We developed the booklets for learning Huitoto. Now we're going to make an interchange. We learn Huitoto and we teach those communities English. So I will give you the time. I don't know who's going to start. Let me check. Tatiana, it's your turn.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, English Huitoto interchange. The scales in this slide, you see 3 pillars that guide our proposal: phonological and phonemic awareness, contextualized material development, and sight words. Okay. The basic idea is mutual learning, while students being English with resources designed from their own cultural context. We also value and integrate the knowledge already present in our Huitoto community. Okay, this approach is not only linguistic, it's cultural and social. It respects the local worldview, traditions, and daily life, while promoting essential skill for reading and pronunciation in English. The 3 pillars you see here from foundation of bilingual workbook. Okay, please, next slide, please. Okay, Huitoto. Yeah. Okay, this slide explains the role of community. The Huitoto are willing to develop a linguistic interchange where they teach other their native language and at the same time learn English from scratch. The process begins with phonological activities, short readings, and continues with the use of bilingual English with Huitoto buckled. Importantly, this is a participatory process. The community validates the content and ensures that the material reflects their culture. Okay, next, please. Phonological awareness. Okay, here we introduce phonological awareness. It refers to the ability to recognize that spoken words are made up of smaller sounds. sound parts such as syllables, rhythms, and phonemes. For example, clapping the syllables in, for example, banana. This is banana helps learners notice the sound structure. In our project, activities like rhythm matching, syllable counting, and sound segmentation will be used to strengthen these skills. And phonological awareness prepares students to connect with letters and learn to read a short text in English more confidently. Please, next. Okay, in this part, phonological awareness. Okay, this slide shows practical activities to develop phonological awareness. We focus on four main skills. First, the rhythm, finding words that written like, for example, pin, find, tin, bin. Okay, and the second is blending, combining a separate sound from a word like s, and to make spin. Okay, third, segmenting, breaking a word into individual sounds like spin, s, b, and fourth, manipulating, changing one sound to make a new word. For example, changing W in when to P to get pen. Okay. These activities make learning attractive and playful, and they prepare students to recognize sound in English more effectively. Next, please. Okay, in this case, we have phonemic awareness. Okay, and this is like a move from phonological to phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the ability to focus on and manipulate the smallest units of sound called phonemes in spoken words. An example can be the word cat. It has 3 phonemes. Okay, English has about 44 phonemes, which can be challenging because some of the sounds do not exist in our total language. In our project, a student will practice phonemes isolation, blending, and substitution through simple games. And this helps them build accuracy, both pronunciation, and reading. Next, please. Okay. Phonemic. Okay. Next, please. Okay, in this part. Phonological versus phonemic awareness. This slide compares phonological and phonemic awareness. The phonological awareness works with bigger sound units like rhythm, syllables, for example, blending onset and rhyme to make words like cat or son of deleting a syllable from basketball to get ball. Okay, on the right, phonemic awareness focus on individual phonemes. For instance, segmenting dog into D, O, G, okay, or substituting C in cat with H to form hat. Together, these two skills are like the foundation for learning to read and write it in English. And that's why our workbook integrates both approach. Next, please. Okay, material design. This slide shows you the components for our material design. The bilingual workbook is great for both children and adults, and it aims to strengthen cultural identity through 3 elements. Language vitality, ensuring both English and Witoto are part of the process. Second, cultural heritage, including stories, traditionals, and knowledge from the community. And the third, it's intercultural practice. Intercultural practice connecting local culture and with English learning. By combining these elements, the workbook becomes not only a language tool, but also a resource to preserve identity, of course. Next, please. And this slide show how the material and science learner, the resource blends their educational tools, such as linguistic with ancestral practices, including dance, song, gastronomy, and others. This makes English learning meaningful and connected to everyday life. Students are not just learning words, they are experiencing the language through their own culture, and that's so important for us. And this way, the word is more than a set of pages. It's an innovation to practice English in culturally significant spaces, while reinforcing identity and obviously pride of our culture or of our roots. Okay, that's my partner, Carol.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Here we can see examples of previous work, like the We Toto English booklet created in 2016, and other local projects such as the Math and Cassava booklet. And these efforts prove that the community has already started creating useful resources. And our project our project takes these foundations and expand them into a more systematical proposal. Next slide, please. Okay. One important strategy was family involvement. Parents joined workshops where songs were sung, dances were practiced, and meanings were discussed. Even parents who no longer speak with Toto could participate. This makes learning intergenerational and brings the language back into homes. The next, please. Phonics. Phonics focus on connecting sounds with tooth letters. We begin with simple consonant vowel patterns and later move to more complex spellings. And the purpose is to give learners the tools to decode new words, making them independent learners. The next, please. Sight words. Okay, sight words are frequent words that we learn to recognize instantaneously, like de or set, because many of them don't follow regular rules. Memorizing them helps students read more smoothly and concentrate on meaning instead of spelling. The next, please. Okay, in kindergarten, first and second grade, children start with around 100 sight words, adding more each year. And usually teachers use flashcards, matching activities, and repeated reading. And when we combine this with phonics, students develop both automatic recognition and also decoding skills. The next, please. Here we can see a comparison that shows how learning a small number of sight words helps us to understand English text. So with 25 words, we can read around 33% of text. With 100 words, we can read around 50%. With 300 words, we can read around 65%. And with 1,000 words, up to 90%. This means that knowing sight words makes reading in English much easier. The next, please. Okay, and to finish, the study compares 3 approaches: phonological awareness, phonics, and sight words. We want to see which one or which combination develops reading fluency and comprehension more effectively for the Witoto learners. The next. Yes, so this project shows that learning English and revitalizing Witoto can go hand to hand as long as materials are created with cultural respect and community participation. And that's it. Thank you for your attention.
So let's finish this presentation. Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you, Carol, for your presentation and your ideas. And just to conclude everything, we, with Juliet and another group of researchers, developed these 5 books. They contained the theory that Tatiana and Carol explained. So these primers, or these cartillas, they were based on phonological awareness, on phonics, and on sight words. We based those 3 elements to create these booklets. Now the idea is to make a new one that Tatiana and Carol are going to develop. They have already started. And this research is their idea for getting their diploma from the university. And we are going to spend maybe 1 semester or maybe 2 semesters developing this new booklet. What is the difference between this one that we have already done and the new one? The intercultural speaking, the interchange. We want to create those English booklets because all of them said to us, hey, we want to learn English. Why don't we make an interchange? We teach you Witoto and you teach us English. And we said, okay, give us time. We are going to develop a project and we're going to do it so we can make that interchange. So maybe in 1 year or later or before, we are going to show you the results of this project that we are very excited to present it to all of you. And maybe if you have comments or you have questions about it, we will gladly answer your questions. Thank you very much for your attention. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Professor Julian, Carol, and Tatiana. It was a wonderful experience. Let me congratulate you for this project. I think that it is very important to try to rescue our identity. And don't forget that there are very important aspects in our cultural identity that need to be focused. There are a lot of positive comments from the audience. They are very glad to see this research that you have conducted. And there are a few questions that we are going to make. The first one is, how did members of the Witoto community perceive and experience their participation in this project?
Well, they're very happy. Maybe we have a wrong impression on indigenous communities that they only want to learn their native language, but they see this as an opportunity. because some of them want to be tour guides, some of them want to sell, I don't know, handcrafts to foreign people when they come to Florencia, and they can't do the trading because they don't know the language. So they see that English is like a tool for developing their own life project. Also, some of them said, teacher, we need to talk because there is a project with an ONG from another country, and so we need to write the document, but we don't know English, so we need to do it. So they're very happy with this project because it's going to be helpful for developing not only their communities, but because learning another language, in this case English, will help them to be more involved with different generations of students. And we have seen that because students from school students that are from Huitoto or Coreguaje communities, when they face English language, they say, hey, why am I trying to learn in a foreign language if my father and my grandfather, they talk a native language? I'm going to focus more on my native language in order to perceive my own culture, and then I'm going to accept learning English. So it's a win-win. All of them are very happy, and they are willing. They're just waiting for us to start with these classes.
Wonderful, Professor. Thank you. Let's go with this question. What strategies do you consider most effective to ensure that these linguistic exchanges are sustained over time and do not remain only as isolated experiences?
Well, that's a nice question. I have seen similar process in Antioquia, in Leticia, and in different parts of the world. And we have seen that none of them are focused on phonological awareness, but we are going to find it out. We don't know yet the answer in this specific community, because we have examples in other places, not in Florencia, not with Huitoto. They are displaced from Amazon region and they live here in Florencia. So it's something new for us. And as far as we know, there is nothing similar in Florencia or in Caquetá. I have seen examples in Leticia. They use a kind of syllabification process because Huitoto and Coreguaje, they are, as more of indigenous languages, they are liquid. That means that they are composed by syllables. And if we divide long words into chunks, we know that we have a hypothesis that is going to be very useful for them. But when we have the results, we're going to show you the results. As far as we know, there's nothing like this, at least here in Florencia.
All right. Thank you so much. I guess this is the final question. What challenges have you faced in balancing the teaching of a global language like English with the revitalization of an indigenous language such as Huitoto?
What can we say? We are just on the first steps of this process. Even though we have been working on this for more than 5 years, I guess that the biggest challenge is time and being patient, because there's a lot of variables, and indigenous communities, they have their own struggles. They have internal problems. Sometimes we set a date for an appointment for talking about the project, and they're busy doing other things. So sometimes we just discourage ourselves because we expect things to be faster. We as Western people, we tend to plan things and succeed on the plans. We have to be more patient. So think it's not something that we're going to develop in just 1 month or 1 year. We know it's going to be a long breath run. So we have to be patient and not to quit the project if something goes wrong. But I guess that instead of being a problem, it's an opportunity for us to learn to be patient, because revitalizing an indigenous language is not easy, but it's not impossible. And it's a process that it's not up to us. It's more up to the communities and the availability of material to teach. So we consider that we need more time. We need more discussion. We need to learn first. I think we need to learn with Toto before teaching English. But it's not going to happen because we are also busy. We're busy all the time. So I think the most difficult part of this process is to get results that we can show. I was teaching, we taught English to Emilio like 3 years ago. We tried. We said, nos vemos en la Maloca. And I got there and he was busy. I said, teacher, come to my Maloca. No, I can't today. So I know the times are difficult, but we need to solve that out because it's a process that must be constant. And sometimes we do many things, but we need to focus on this. So I think that's the most difficult part, getting enough time to develop the project. But I know that with Tatiana and Carol, they are going to spend enough time to get good results. And I think that we need a larger team. Sometimes Juliet and me are the only that are working on that project, and Professor Girley and other students from Universidad that they are now graduated. So we need a larger team. We need more researchers, maybe from UNAD, that come with us and develop like a synergy. Maybe Tania, that she's also a very good teacher. Maybe you have Will. I know we maybe need a larger team to develop strategies to get a better result. So the door is open for all those researchers who want to join us. I have tried a lot with my own students in the Universidad de la Amazonia, but it's difficult. Maybe in a future talk we can discuss those problems, but we see as opportunities. I don't know if Tatiana and Carol wants to say something else. Okay.
No, Professor. Just let everything good.
Okay, got it. So that's it. Thank you very much for your questions and your attention.
Okay, Professor. I will finish with these comments that I found very insightful. An exchange between English and Witoto is not only an academic exercise, but also an act of interculturality. While English opens doors in the global sphere, Witoto connects with ancestral memory, worldview, and a sense of community. Once again, thank you so much for your presentation. We really appreciate your contributions and see you in a future occasion.
I hope so. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you, Tatiana Carol.
Muchísimas gracias a nuestros ponentes. Queridos participantes, recuerden que este evento internacional les brinda la oportunidad de obtener una certificación. Para ello, es indispensable completar el formulario de evaluación al término del bloque.
Hemos llegado a un punto clave de nuestro congreso donde es momento de recopilar y reflexionar sobre todo lo compartido en estos 2 días. Para guiarnos a través de las ideas y aprendizajes más relevantes, le damos paso a la profesora Juana Valentina Rosso, quien presentará las conclusiones de este evento. Agradecemos de antemano su valioso análisis que nos ayudará a sintetizar los conocimientos adquiridos y a llevar la inspiración a nuestras prácticas profesionales. Adelante, profesora Juana, bienvenida.
Muchas gracias, Silvia y Sergio. Entre ayer y hoy hemos abierto un espacio que de las fronteras geográficas se desdibujaron. Desde Brasil, Ecuador, Perú, Reino Unido, México, Panamá, Bélgica y Colombia nos reunimos docentes, investigadores y estudiantes para dialogar en torno a un mismo propósito: cómo investigar y enseñar lenguas en un mundo cambiante, multicultural y tecnológico. No fue solo un congreso, fue la confirmación de que el aprendizaje de lenguas es también un aprendizaje de humanidad. Nos embarcamos en un viaje a través de ponencias que nos transformaron. Durante este tiempo, las ponencias nos guiaron como estaciones de un recorrido. Cada voz aportó un paisaje distinto. Jaime Ancajima nos recordó que la interculturalidad es la quinta habilidad esencial en el aprendizaje de lenguas, tan necesaria como leer, escribir, hablar o escuchar. Nos invitó a entender la lengua como un puente hacia el otro. Jill mostró experiencias de comunidades rurales y urbanas trabajando juntas en proyectos interculturales. Sus retos confirmaron que aprender una lengua es aprender a convivir. Desde el corazón de la Amazonía, Julián Mejía y su equipo expusieron cómo la enseñanza del inglés puede convivir con la revitalización de lenguas indígenas como el huitoto, un recordatorio de que enseñar las lenguas también significa proteger la diversidad cultural. Kenki Rodríguez y Esteban Bautista presentaron caminos para usar la inteligencia artificial y la gamificación de manera crítica, no como reemplazo del docente, sino como una aliada para generar aprendizajes más activos. También pusimos en práctica metodologías innovadoras como el Peer Guide de Norma García o el COIL desde la experiencia que nos compartió Regiani Sousa Camargo, demostrando que la investigación y la docencia se fortalecen cuando se cruzan fronteras. José Alirio nos recordó hoy que aprender una lengua no es solo dominar estructuras, sino atreverse a practicar, a vencer el miedo y a construir espacios seguros donde podamos equivocarnos y seguir creciendo. Viajar, abrirnos a otras culturas y aprender habilidades interculturales nos abre puertas al mundo y nos transforma como personas. Pero como docentes, somos precisamente esas puertas que otros atraviesan para entrar al mundo con más confianza, tranquilidad y curiosidad. Nuestra tarea no es solo enseñar gramática o vocabulario, sino cultivar empatía, despertar la curiosidad y acompañar a los estudiantes en su camino de exploración y descubrimiento. Cuando construimos espacios seguros e inclusivos, damos a nuestros estudiantes la posibilidad de atreverse a hablar, a escuchar al otro y a reconocerse como ciudadanos globales. Y así, cada clase se convierte en un acto de libertad, confianza y construcción de paz. Cada una de las sesiones de esta jornada fue un mosaico de saberes y experiencias y emociones. De las relatorías de las experiencias surgieron patrones comunes que se entrelazaron como hilos de una misma red. La investigación-acción y la formación continua son brújulas indispensables para el docente investigador. La tecnología debe ser asumida como con un uso crítico y ético, evitando la dependencia de las herramientas de la inteligencia artificial. La inclusión y el multilingüismo y la interculturalidad no son complementos, sino pilares de la enseñanza de lenguas. Existen brechas digitales, sociales y culturales que aún deben cerrarse mediante alianzas locales y globales. Ustedes, como espectadores, no solamente fueron un ente pasivo, sus preguntas encendieron el debate. Cómo formar una conciencia intercultural genuina en los estudiantes, cómo usar la IA con responsabilidad sin deshumanizar la enseñanza, cómo reducir la ansiedad en el aprendizaje de lenguas para que el aula sea un espacio seguro. Estas intervenciones fueron tan valiosas como las ponencias mismas, pues abrieron nuevas rutas de investigación, práctica docente y seguramente en ustedes han quedado resonando muchas preguntas. CIPIL 2025 nos deja claro que enseñar lenguas no es solo un acto académico, sino también un acto de justicia social. Los retos que nos quedan son tan urgentes como inspiradores y esperamos que puedan ser aplicados en sus aulas. Combatir la desigualdad en el acceso a la tecnología. Evitar el riesgo de la superficialidad en el uso de herramientas digitales, superar la resistencia al cambio metodológico, generar materiales interculturales que valoren todas las voces. Entre los retos presentados también emergieron oportunidades. La posibilidad de fortalecer nuestras redes de investigación transdisciplinar que unan docentes, estudiantes y comunidades, el desarrollo de prácticas investigativas responsables, éticas y contextualizadas en el aula que nos formen como agentes de cambio, el uso de metodologías colaborativas que permitan a los estudiantes aprender lenguas mientras construyen su ciudadanía global. El CIPIL 2025 nos recuerda que la labor docente va mucho más allá de enseñar una lengua. Nos recuerda que es un compromiso social profundo. Como profesores, tenemos la responsabilidad de cultivar en nosotros mismos habilidades de empatía y reconocimiento intercultural, porque solo desde el respeto y la comprensión del otro podremos contribuir a una educación transformadora. Nuestro reto ahora es construir aulas y comunidades en donde todas las voces sean escuchadas, todas las identidades sean reconocidas y todas las personas sean incluidas. Es ese camino para enseñar una lengua que se convierta en una herramienta poderosa para sembrar paz, cohesión social y ciudadanía global. Ser docente es en esencia ser tejedores de puentes humanos entre culturas, generaciones y visiones de mundo, y en ese encuentro donde se gesta la sociedad pacífica a la que aspiramos. Al concluir el Congreso, nos queda resonando una frase que sintetiza el espíritu de lo que hemos vivido desde ayer. Todos enseñamos, todos aprendemos y finalmente todos ganamos. Este Congreso no cierra acá, más bien nos entrega una tarea: seguir investigando, enseñando y soñando juntos un mundo más justo e inclusivo a través de las lenguas. Como comunidad académica, también nos quedan muchas preguntas a las que esperamos que podamos dar respuesta a través de nuestros ejercicios académicos e investigativos. Recuerden que también estamos esperando que se unan a nuestros semilleros. ¿De qué manera la enseñanza de lenguas puede contribuir a una sociedad más justa, inclusiva? ¿De qué aprendizajes de este Congreso nos ayudan a reconocer y valorar la diversidad cultural en nuestra aula? ¿Cómo puedo ser yo mismo un ciudadano global desde mi rol como docente o como persona normal? ¿Qué herramientas tecnológicas del Congreso y fuera del Congreso puedo integrar de forma responsable en mi práctica docente y en mi proceso académico? Como docentes, somos puertas que abren caminos hacia la confianza, la curiosidad y un mundo más justo e inclusivo a través de las lenguas. Gracias por su participación activa, por la curiosidad y por mantenerse en línea de manera participativa durante todo el Congreso.
Muchas gracias a la profe Juanita por sus palabras inspiradoras. Recuerden, estimados participantes, que este evento internacional les brinda la oportunidad de obtener una certificación. En unos momentos les compartiremos el enlace por nuestro canal de YouTube. Para ello es indispensable que completen el formulario una vez se ha compartido.
Hemos llegado al final de nuestro Congreso, un evento que ha superado nuestras expectativas gracias a su valiosa participación y a las enriquecedoras ponencias que hemos presenciado. Para dar el cierre oficial a este segundo Congreso Internacional sobre Productividad Investigativa en el Aprendizaje de las Lenguas, queremos invitar al líder nacional del programa de la licenciatura en Lenguas Extranjeras con énfasis en inglés de la UNAD, el profesor Julio César Tulán de Rengifo. Sus palabras marcarán el final de esta jornada de aprendizaje y nos inspirarán a seguir trabajando en la construcción de una educación en lenguas cada vez más innovadora y relevante. Adelante, profesor Tulande.
Buenos días, profe Sergio. ¿Me confirma si me estás escuchando?
Sí, señor, perfecto.
Vale, muchísimas gracias a todos y, bueno, como lo mencionaba, vamos a hacer el cierre de este espacio del Congreso Internacional en Productividad en la Enseñanza de las Lenguas. Ha sido, digamos, un espacio muy interesante para el fortalecimiento de diferentes procesos. Hemos evidenciado y presenciado un grupo muy selecto de presentadores o de ponentes que nos han llenado de muchas ideas para la innovación y que nos han unido alrededor de un propósito común, como lo mencionaba Juanita en sus palabras de cierre, es para la transformación, ¿cierto? La educación en lenguas a través de la investigación, por supuesto la colaboración, como lo evidenciaba la profesora de Brasil, y para fortalecer ese entendimiento intercultural. Este espacio, I'm sorry, sorry. I'm going to start in English now. This Congress was initially thought as a place or as a space for us to share and contribute to language learning, but especially as a way for teachers and students to come together with a mutual purpose, and it is to promote research productivity in language teaching. It's very important for us as a program to promote research-driven culture in language teaching, especially in our students who are preparing to become, the new teachers of English across the entire country and abroad. So it's really necessary for us to encourage their learning of language through research, and of course encourage the international collaboration. We learn about COIL in this Congress, and it is important for us to continue working and strengthening the role of teachers as researchers and leaders of their communities. In that regard, we have our program. It's Licenciatura en Lenguas Extranjeras con énfasis en inglés. The foreign language program ARUNAT is proud to be recognized as a high quality virtual education program that includes the integration, of course, of cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence, gamification, and immersive platforms. And we have a growing network of intercultural students and teachers who are dedicating their work to and being very passionate about what they do in teaching English and helping to change the way in which language is taught in their communities. Also, can you change to the next slide, please? Thank you. Also, we have to think about how research drives innovation in language teaching that is, tailored to students in different contexts and needs, especially in our rural areas in Colombia, but also in our language classrooms all over the country. We have teachers in different places who have, different elements for their teaching practices. We are trying to provide, our students with information, of course, with new technologies, with new tools to enhance their language teaching, and that is done through research in groups, to make sure that we can provide our students with those practices that promote their decision making based on the results that they are getting from their teaching strategies, and also to empower our teachers or our educators to improve their language educations and advocate for change. It's important for us to highlight how our teachers, we have around 190 teachers now in our program who are part of the different courses, who are supporting our students every day in online, face-to-face, hybrid environments. So it's really important for us that our students know that we are working tirelessly every day to bring to you everything that we have and do our best effort in helping you learn the language. In that regard, I want to mention an important and very demanded space that we have in our program is the online language community. It is part of that innovation process that we have been working on for the last, I would say, 10 years. The language community was started as a place for the students to be able to have, a chance to practice the language, and has continued up to now to be a place where students can come and participate as part of the pedagogical practice. We have teachers from the program, we have students from the program, and we have around 1,600 interactions every semester. So it's really important that our students learn about this space, that our students get interested and participate. Our course directors share this information every week so that students can join the different classes or conferences that we have. And we really invite all our students to participate. And in that regard, we also have our research seed beds, sorry. We have been working very hard to create this research network that is, of course, in charge of not only the research seed beds, but also is the one that is organizing and promoting these events. And we will continue working with them. So we invite you to scan the QR code and learn more about our research network, and of course, learn a little more about our research seedbeds that are here for you. I want to continue, please, with the next slide, talking a little bit about, as Juanita was mentioning, and as all our presenters make clear, language requires innovation, the use of technology. It's important that we understand that making an ethical use of the technologies that we have available right now, because we have a lot of AI technologies that help us improve our writings, that help us with our speaking. But it's important that we make an ethical use, that we don't let the machine learn for us. We have to learn and help, of course, use the machine to help us, but use it very responsibly. It's important to continue growing as teachers, with improving our leadership, making sure that our teachers can be leaders in their contexts, in the communities that they are providing, the tools that the students need to make real changes in their lives. And of course, that is done through intercultural awareness and inclusion, to promote diversity. And what was one of the presenters was talking about, global understanding, to understand that we are not just one people, that there are millions of people in the world, and that we all share different things in common. But every community, every culture is different, and there is not one that is the best, right? And that leads us to to continue training our teachers to become researchers, to empower their language, their practices, and to continue, of course, making sure that language and languages are used for connecting, as one of the presenters today was talking about, that global citizenship that allows us to be part of the world, right? And of course, this will bring different aspects to our journey, right? And because research, of course, it can help us innovate in our pedagogical practices, to bring equity and inclusion in education, and of course make our practices more based on that evidence that or those experiences that we are living in our teaching practices every day, and make sure that our teachers and especially our students are those agents of change that are needed in all the learning environments. I want to say thank you. Oh, wait, sorry. I would like to these recommendations for the future that we have, of course, to continue working together to bring those projects for cross-cultural collaboration that allows us to make our program more international, to bring that internationalization to our program. We have, and I am very interested in learning Portuguese and learning about other cultures, because we have so many opportunities abroad, and those will lead us to those activities, virtual collaborative activities, to make sure that we have that empathy, that caring for other cultures, to make sure that our resources are inclusive, like using AI, podcasts, gamification, and of course other tools that we have available, to make sure that our students use those, like I said, responsibly, and to continue working on that teacher training, to make sure that our teachers acquire those competencies in the field of interculturality and research. Finally, I want to say thank you to all the teachers in the teacher network that we have, who were very willing to work on this Congress. They have been working tirelessly, like I said, for about 3 months in creating this space for all of you. I want to say thank you especially to Juanita, Monica Hill, who's not here with us today, to, of course, Silvia, Sergio, and all the leaders in all the other research seedbeds, or nuestros semilleros de investigación, who are part of the virtualist group, and especially our students who decided to join us, or who are here today, and this is for you, right? So thank you very much to everyone, and we hope to see you in our next Congress in 2026. Thank you very much.
Gracias a todos los que nos acompañaron durante estos 2 días. Ha sido un honor ser sus anfitriones en este evento tan especial. Esperemos que el Congreso haya sido una fuente de inspiración, nuevos conocimientos y conexiones valiosas para todos. Recuerden que la innovación, el liderazgo y la investigación son herramientas clave para seguir transformando la educación en lenguas. Con esto damos por finalizado el segundo Congreso Internacional sobre Productividad Investigativa en el Aprendizaje de Lenguas CIPIL. Recuerden llenar la asistencia y la evaluación del evento, que está en este momento anclada en el chat de YouTube. Muchas gracias a todos. Hasta la próxima.